All right, looks like we're live. I'm here with just one of my sidekicks this week. Artistic Layman's with me.
Hello, everyone.
He's with me twice due to technical issues, but that's neither here nor there. Um, and Undertow is caught in traffic, as I understand it. He should be joining us as soon as possible. All right, so I had off Friday for my birthday. My birthday is actually next Friday, but I just was planning on doing some Friday stuff with friends and family yesterday. Those plans got run. I'm also among my plans. I didn't pre-order a Switch, but I was thinking I was going to try and get it Best Buy right when they open, maybe see if they had one. Well, I was unable to attempt that, which I'm kind of, on one level, I'm kind of glad I didn't get a Switch, and we'll talk about that later. But the reason being is my dog's been a little sick lately. Basically, he's been drinking constantly and pissing constantly. And it's only the past couple of days that it's really been all that noticeable. And I thought, well, I got to get him to the vet in the next few days. Well, yesterday morning, he basically drank so fast he made himself throw up. So I'm like, well, I gotta get an emergency vet visit. And turns out and I actually thought I was going to lose him because I'd seen similar things pop up with another dog that by the time you could even react to it, it was too late. That's the thing with dogs. Thing with pets in general. You know, things happen so fast with them, and by the time you even notice a problem, it might be too late. But I got him to the vet, and turns out my dog has the movie Bob disease. My dog has diabetes. I don't know how that happened. He's not fat. The vet just told me, you're really scratchy there. I know you're using your phone's mic, but we need to turn on the volume on or something. But the vet just tells me that it was probably genetic in him. It was probably a ticking time bomb because he's otherwise healthy as a horse. So that was a nasty vet bill, and the medicine quite possibly a monthly bill that I didn't necessarily need, but whatever, we persevere. And actually, it chewed up a good portion of my Switch money too. So I had a good amount of money set aside for the Switch, and now I really don't. But as I said, that's not that big a deal because, as we'll talk about here later, Switch might not be worth getting just yet. But weirdest ass thing, and I really thought I was going to lose him Friday because it was very similar to another thing. I thought that was it, and that was a hell of a day. And by the way, and I don't think this lowly of my audience, so don't take this personally. But if by chance you're listening to this and you're thinking like, get over it, it's just a dog, go listen to something else. This show isn't for you, and I don't particularly want your listenership. But yeah, I thought I was about ready to lose him. I did wander by a Target later that day to see about a Switch situation. Oh, in the Best Buy, and Best Buy was sold out. Target, the guy said, we'll get some Sunday morning. I suggest you get here 7 a.m. Sunday morning, an hour before we open. And I thought, yeah, I'm not doing that because I have self-respect. Trust me, buddy, I'm a grown-ass man. So Sunday morning, I'm either in church or sleeping off Saturday night. But I'm not in line at the Target to buy something that will be readily available in every fucking store in 6 months when everything calms down. All right. And so yeah, it was a rough weekend, rough on my wallet, but also rough on me emotionally. It's not been a good birthday weekend, that's for sure. But thankfully the dog is okay. I got to give him a shot for the diabetes. But that's frankly harder on me than it is on him. He doesn't even seem to notice it. Whereas I, just I feel bad about it. And I have to just tell myself, like, he very obviously doesn't even care. But anyways, I was having problems with my Wii U because, and again, we'll get into this with the Switch. Apparently we're long past the days when Nintendo made things from indestructible Nintendium. But I have a problem with my Wii U right now where the gamepad has no fucking range. You take that thing more than 3 feet away from the device. You know what? I'm going to be generous. I'm going to say 5 feet away from the device. It loses a signal, which I always like to play games on the gamepad. So that's no good. But the point is, I'm going to just get another gamepad. It's like $50, and then I'm going to get Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. I may get the Switch in Christmas if some problems that we'll discuss here shortly get situated. But I've actually heard Mr. Matoga was comparing the two. The frame rate is actually better on the Wii U version. Now, I actually don't really give that much of a fuck about frame rate, if I'm being honest with you. I think people it's like graphics. It's one of those things where people get too caught up in it. Like, you still have 30 frames per instead of 60. Like, what are you, a caveman? It's like, shut up, all right? That said, though, it's telling that the quote unquote, inferior version is actually far from. Yeah, so I'm probably just going to go ahead and get Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. And maybe for Christmas, I'll look into getting the Switch. Because let's go ahead and read them out. I'll throw this article in the chat so you can put up pictures, Luke. We'll go ahead and start talking about the Switch reveal. Again, I threw up on my Facebook, and it's actually my private Facebook because I didn't want to make it a big deal on any of the Bechtloff stuff. But I did throw up on my Facebook, problems with the dog yesterday, and people were very supportive. And I do want to thank all my friends and some fans that were very supportive.
Here's to a quick recovery.
Well, I mean, he is otherwise completely healthy. He is otherwise healthy as a horse. So, I mean, they ran all manner of other tests on him, and he's otherwise healthy as a horse. So he's probably, but I mean, Cavalier, he's not a puppy anymore, and he's a Cavalier Spaniel, and they do not have the longest lifespan. It's about a decade. So, it is on the horizon that I will be burying this creature. And I mean, I do love him. I love him to death. It's actually funny. I ended up getting him because my dad is a huge fan of this breed. And I was out with him one day, and he was out looking for, he's what's called a ruby. He's brown, but they kind of call it red. He's the red Cavalier, which is the rarest one. My dad was looking for one like that. And he was like, I don't know if I can really afford to get that dog. Well, never go looking at puppies if you're not ready to take one home, because a dog doesn't pick you, or you don't pick a dog picks you. And this dog picked me, and I bonded with him right then and there. Yeah, I didn't even really want a dog, and I ended up with a dog.
Aw.
But yeah, I was looking at my dad. I'm like, "Are you going to buy this dog?" He's like, "I don't think so." I'm like, "Well, fuck, I'm going to buy this dog then." But that was 2008. So he's not a puppy anymore. Wow. And again, these dogs live, Cavaliers, they seem to only live about 10 years, give or take. So,
I can't remember the last time I actually had a dog. It's been, I mean, I've had a lot of pets when I was a kid, but after their life expectancy kicked in, and I realized maybe I shouldn't have pets anymore.
It's rough. I mean, we're like the elves, and I actually saw somebody post this on Facebook that it was really almost touching, but we're like the elves in Lord of the Rings to them, you know, like they live their whole lives and we've barely aged at all. You know,
That's
one of
interesting way
us
to put it.
one of us could be looking over generations of their bloodline. You know. But yeah, they get under your skin, that's for sure.
Mm.
And as I've often said on here, and I'll reiterate a million times, as my favorite preacher, Steve Brown, likes to say, if you don't believe in doggy heaven, you can take your erroneous theology elsewhere. Okay, but getting back to the Switch, the thing that my dog deciding to cost me money prevented me from getting, because I probably could have gotten one early in the morning, because when I went to Best Buy, he kind of just told me we just sold out, and I got there around 1. But anyways, the Switch has got, I don't know if you got the article up. I threw it in the chat here.
Here we go.
Okay, so here, this site is called thegg.net. I have no idea if this is that credible of a site. I know how gaming media is. Okay, so if somebody's like, "Why are you reading from this site?" I don't know them. Okay, so forgive me if they're a bunch of shitheads. And I'm not saying they are. I don't know. Okay, so some of the problems that the Switch is having. And I'm not going to read the whole article, but the Switch's dock will sometimes scratch the screen if you aren't careful. That's not good design right there. Oh, by the way, DSP actually got a Switch and he couldn't get it to basically power up. But, I mean, in all fairness, that's DSP.
Yeah.
So you really can't discount operator error there, can you?
No, you cannot.
There are also problems with the screen. A lot of people, the screen's not powering up. Error code 2162-0002 is apparently a very common error, which basically means you cannot get, the thing just crashes constantly. The charger port is on the bottom, which is causing problems, but that's more an ergonomic thing than an actual tech issue. That's just poor ergonomics. Let's see.
I like the elaborate setup he has with the Rubik's Cube and the box of matches.
Yeah, the high-pitched scream. I've seen that. I've other Bluetooth devices interfere. Yep. And by the way, that's just a problem with wireless in general. Now, it sounds like this is more, but too many fucking things are wireless right now. This is something we need to get under control. Too many fucking things we're making wireless for no fucking reason. All right. And it's gonna cause interference with each other. It just does. All right.
This isn't a good analogy, but I'm reminded of the one Simpsons episode where he goes to a car dealership for accessories. He says, "What do you currently have plugged into your cigarette lighter?" And he goes over the top and buys a fax machine, a fog machine, and everything you could put into a cigarette lighter.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. Like I actually used the wire when I would play my 360, and like my friends would look at me like I'm a caveman, and I'm like, "What? You're sitting close enough to it that you can use the wire." Yeah, but the wireless it's no, dude. It generally doesn't work as well. I'm not saying Wi-Fi just doesn't work. I'm saying it generally doesn't work as well as a hard wire. But yeah, look, okay, so other Wi-Fi things are fucking it up. Apparently, if you try to put decorative skins on your Switch, that can fuck it up. A company called D-Brand has actually was offering customizable Switch skins and had to recall them all because just a regular old skins that they make for all manner of electronics for some reason end up scratching the fuck out of this one.
This is weird. I mean, this is usually the problems you have with like an Xbox or the 360.
Yeah, this is Xbox. This is Xbox. This is Sony and Microsoft level shit. And that's what I said when my Wii U gamepad died, and when I thought back, my Wii U bricked way earlier than it should have too. Now that I think about it, And just on the off chance somebody from Nintendo is listening to this, I expect better out of you guys. All right, this is ridiculous. I expect this kind of bullshit from Sony and Microsoft. That's just what they're known for. All right, you're supposed to be better than this, and you haven't been for a while. Now that I look back, and you need to pull your head out of your ass here, because I really thought you were turning a corner with this damn thing. Okay. I really thought the marketing was brilliant on the Switch. It really was, as evidenced by the fact that motherfuckers were knife fighting each other for it yesterday. All right. But you can't be doing this kind of shit, because here's the thing. Sony and Microsoft can, this is the sad reality of the situation here. Sony and Microsoft can get away with more shit than you can, Nintendo. You know why? Because the gaming media has their tongues firmly up Sony and Microsoft's assholes. But they hate you, all right? And they're always going to point out every flaw you have. They're always going to point it out. You can't get away with this shit. You're like the Republicans, okay? The media is just against you from the get-go. You have to do better. So yeah, I didn't get a Switch, and as of right now, I probably eventually will. No immediate plans to do so. And I'm sorry, but if you're waiting in line first thing in the morning for this kind of shit, you need to rethink some shit. You really do. I can understand. Like, look, like the NES Classic, they were only ever planning to make a few of. I can kind of get that, but they're going to make as many Switches as people want. Okay.
I mean, it's not like it is the Wii. We're not going to expect like an overflowing surprise success of this unique little device. This is
well, even if they did, I mean, what? Oh, the Wii, you had shortages for a couple of months, and then Nintendo caught back up to it. Like, okay, so you have to wait a couple months to get your fucking game system. Grow up. I don't know. I didn't even pre-order it because I've never bought a console at launch in my adult years. Okay. I think, now looking back, I've never gotten a console at launch, even as a little kid. If I got a console, it would have been at Christmas or possibly my birthday.
Because normally you don't really buy the console until you have a game you want to play it on. I've never had that situation where, I'm just going to buy a console right away and not buy a game with it.
Well, that's true, but I mean, in all fairness, the Switch has a couple of games already. Right. I would say Breath of the Wild is worth buying a console for. Now, granted, you could get it on the Wii U, which is just what I'm planning to do. Plus, Bomberman R is on there, and Bomberman being back is kind of cool. So there's at least 2 really awesome games on it already, which, I mean, that's more than Sony and Microsoft had for a good long time when they launched their last consoles. Hell, that's 2 more that Sony and Microsoft had when they launched their consoles.
Yeah, we want to take a good look at
the games on the Switch wasn't the issue. I want, and again, Breath of the Wild, let's just take that off the table for a second, because I can just play it on the Wii U. But I want the new Bomberman game. I want to check out ARMS. I'm going to want the new Smash Brothers when it comes out. I want Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I really want Mario Odyssey. I'm going to want the new 2D Mario they put on there. You know, at the end of the day, it's a Nintendo game, a Nintendo console. Like, I had somebody ask me, like, "Oh, I'm PC Master Race. Why do you even want a Nintendo console?" Because Nintendo games are fucking awesome. That's why. You know, I want to play Mario and Zelda and Kirby and Pokemon and fucking Metroid and all this other shit that Nintendo owns. A lot of which they keep on the shelf too long, but that's a whole different topic. They need to fix some shit here, because, again, look, I've often said people who declare Nintendo dead are fucking idiots. As long as there is a video game industry, there will be a Nintendo. Worst case scenario for Nintendo is they have to do what Sega did and make games and be a third-party system. Some would argue that would be very good for the industry, because then everyone would have access to Nintendo games. The point is, that's the worst case scenario for Nintendo. And they would bounce back immediately from that. They would, they would see game. If they had to scale back that far, they would then see software sales through the fucking roof. Because as much as a lot of the Sony and Microsoft fanboys sneer at Nintendo and all, most of them would probably at least want to play Zelda and Metroid. You know, maybe they wouldn't play a Mario game because they're so obsessed with looking adult. But they'd probably still at least play Zelda and Metroid.
Yeah, I would like to see the version of Metroid they would have for this.
Yeah, and you know what? I should have known. What the fuck am I going to try and buy a console at launch for? That's stupid. You know, wait till bugs are worked out. I mean, for fuck's sake, the earliest 360s damn near fucking randomly exploded. All right, and let's go back even further. The earliest PS2s were shit. Because here's something I remember a buddy of mine having a problem with. You remember a big selling point on the PS2s was you could play DVDs on it. You know, and not that many people had DVD players at this point, and a lot of people wanted them. So it was like, holy shit, I can get me a game system and a DVD player in one. Sign me the fuck up. I mean, that would have been like if the original Nintendo had a fucking VCR in it. It was the tits. Well, the problem was, as I understand this, and I'm no engineer, so maybe I have the details wrong here, but the problem was, as I understood it, when the little laser reads the disc in your PS2, when it reads the game disc, it reads the disc, loads up your level, your area, whatever, and then it runs it off of the machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
The disc isn't constantly spinning, isn't constantly being read.
Right.
But when you're watching a movie, it is. And the early PS2s constantly had problems with the laser shitting out. Because the DVD thing, I think, was an afterthought add-on, and they didn't make the laser strong enough. So, I mean, even going back, 10, 15 years, I guess it was now that the PS2 launched. Yeah, 15 years, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's like when my DVD player died on me on the PS2.
Yeah. And so, I mean, consoles at launch have fucking problems. Especially when they're rushed out, and the Switch might have been rushed out. I mean, shit, it was just a few months ago we basically got the reveals of it. I mean, what was it, like 6 months ago we got the name? It's not even that, I think. So, yeah, problems with the some real problems with the Switch, it seems. Let's see. So earlier this week, it was Fat Tuesday and Ash Wednesday, and then we're into Lent. I don't know, Luke, do you do the Lent? I mean, Protestants don't do it as much, but I mean, we don't not do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, like no, I've never practiced. I didn't know what Lent was until I went to Los Angeles, and when I saw people with ash on their foreheads, I thought, what is that all about?
Well, the Ash Wednesday is primarily a Catholic thing. Although, again, some Protestant churches will do it. Some Protestants will do Lent. They're just not as legalistic about it as the Catholics are. And I've done Lent a couple of times. I've never really given up anything major. Like, for Lent this time, I'm just like, I'm not going out to eat at lunch for work anymore. Which I do way too much anyways. But that's just something to give up. But in my area, like Fat Tuesday is the day before Ash Wednesday, before Lent begins. And, that's where, you indulge the hell out of yourself. Which, again, I think is kind of not sort of missing the point. But anyways, in my area, we have something called Fastnacht Day. Which most of the places I've worked around here, the boss will bring them in and shit. And for those of you that are like, what's a Fastnacht? Well, it's like a donut, except that it's gross. A false nut is okay. So imagine like like a powdered jelly donut, right? Big old
Yeah.
powdered jelly donut, and then imagine you took the jelly out of the center, and then imagine you had actually made the donut out of potato bread. Doesn't that sound delicious? No, it doesn't. All right. First time I ever had a false nut, I remember it. It's like, ooh, a donut. Boss brought in free donuts. Fuck yeah. Take a bite. Fuck's wrong with this donut? Take another bite. And then like any jelly or any shit in here? What the hell? Yeah, so that's so what is better than a false nut? Any donut. Any donut. The fucking plain cake donuts that like
Wow.
nobody eats at the end of a box I'd rather have than a false nut. Oh, they're so gross.
Well, this is yeah. I see a picture of it now. This is a strange looking snack.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, we get ones around here that are more round. They look just like a donut. You know what I mean? And they're either glazed or they're powdered, but there's nothing inside, and it's just nasty fucking potato bread, which is not something you should be making a dessert item out of. Well, speaking of the Catholics, the Pope, and I should look up, see if I can find the article, but apparently the Pope, who, as we all know, is of course the Vicar of Christ, he has decided to drastically lessen the penalties for pedophile priests.
Whoa! What?
In fact, I believe one court has the Pope just sentenced him to a life of prayer or something for diddling a kid.
Oh, like we need. Oh, so wow. I guess he is more informed by his communism now, isn't he?
Now, here's what I said about Penn State, and I'll say it about the Catholic Church as an institution right now. I am not mad about the fact that an institution gets pedophiles worming its way into it. That's just going to happen. It's an unfortunate reality. Predators go where the prey is, and anywhere there are people in charge of kids, once in a while, a pedophile is going to work his way into it. That's just the sad reality of it. Where I become infuriated, and where there is no longer, any kind of mitigating factor, there's no longer any excuses, is when an organization begins to cover for these monsters.
And that's what I really hate about that documentary, Deliver Us from Evil. You don't really get mad about the whole situation until you find out the priests are actually involved, pretending that this isn't a problem.
Yeah. I mean, like, shit, before the Penn State thing, I used to make this joke where I said, boy, the Catholic Church must really be the most powerful geopolitical organization in the world. I mean, people complain Walmart's too powerful, but they could never get away with that shit. They could never be like, yeah, we had a little problem in the toy aisle, but it's okay. We moved him to housewares. But in all fairness, Penn State got away with it. So the other big religion in this country, football, can apparently get away with it. Oh, and by the way, if you're a Penn State fan and you got like a Penn State sticker on your car, eat a gun.
Ooh.
Eat a gun. I'm tired of trying to explain to you why you should be ashamed of that. At this point, if you don't know, eat a gun. But yes, Pope reduces sanctions against some pedophile priests. That man is a monster. All right.
Why? I mean, I thought he was the liberal. I thought he wanted to bring the church into the new age. Why is he doing this?
Yeah, he wants to bring the church into the new age, in which, a chicken in every pot and an underage butthole for every dick. That's the new age.
The whole pizza gate is coming back around again.
Yeah. Yeah, he wants to bring a new age of pizza parties.
I can't get over it. I hope that video is fake, the whole Skippy screaming thing. I sincerely hope that's fake.
I wonder how many priests give up underage buttholes for Lent. I mean, I'm just curious. It just seemed.
Well, maybe they have a last
Maybe
the number.
Maybe some sacrifices are too great. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I know I got some Catholics listening, and have you tried spraying this man with holy water? Because I think it might just be a bunch of demons in a man suit. Like, not even possessing him. They're wearing his skin like the bug from Men in Black. In fact, apparently some churches, and I don't even, this might have been like some liberal Protestant churches, and that's a whole different kind of cancer right there, but I can't remember who the hell was doing it. But some churches were apparently mixing glitter in with the ash for Ash Wednesday for like LGBTQ plus LMNOP WTF awareness.
Because that's what the church needs: more affiliation with homosexuality and potential pedophilia and gender confusion. That's what we need.
As Jesus wept because he knew he was going to have to put a boot in people's ass.
And he will, in more ways than one, and in more horrible ways than we can comprehend.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, if you want to call in this week, do go ahead and message me on the Skype stare, as Cantwell likes to say. At the Bechtloff, or just the Bechtloff, whatever the fuck Skype works, the Bechtloff, you'll find me. Go ahead and message me and let me know you want to be on, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. All right, so let's see. Ooh, on to lighter. Pardon me.
Yes, please.
I think I caught gout from DSP. I'm belching up a storm over here. On to a lighter note. DSP has been fired from Machinima.
Oh, he's fired? I thought he resigned.
Yeah. It was. he assures us it was mutual. It was a mutual breakup, don't you know? She totally didn't dump my ass.
No, she didn't dump me. I dumped her.
Yeah, it was mutual.
Was that the cut? Was the accident with the camera the cutting edge, or was that just something that happened over time?
Oh, by the way, I gotta mention this before I forget. I just saw this video. Somebody had like a compilation of DSP doing giveaways for his fans, like little raffles or whatever for his fans. And like the first one, I was blown away. I was blown away at this. This is again where I'm almost like, this is like an Andy Kaufman like act, right? Like it's almost as bad as his unboxing video where he just stares at a game box for 15 minutes while a fire alarm goes off and never even opens it. It's that kind of bad. He has giveaways back. I guess I don't know if he still does it, but like one of them was like Deus Ex, one of the Deus Ex collector's edition, right? So it's the Deus Ex collector's edition, and he's opening it up. He's showing it to us. He's like, "You get all this cool stuff, right?" Okay, who the hell is calling me on Skype? Don't call me on Skype, people. All right. If you want to be on the show, message me on Skype. I will get you in line. All right. I'm glad I have my headphones in and y'all didn't have to hear that, but that really threw me off. Don't call me on the Skype stare. All right. Message me and I will get you in line. All right. Anyways. Oh shit, lost my train of thought. Okay, so he's like he's opening the box. He's like, it comes in this slip case and this metal case. It's really nice. And here we have the soundtrack to the game. It doesn't have the game in it. I traded that in.
Wait,
what? What?
He's giving away the container.
Yeah, it's like at that point you need the JonTron clip where he's like, I have several questions. First of all, Phil. First of all, who the fuck trades in a game without a case?
Yeah, someone who thinks he could sell the case for something.
Yeah, apparently someone who thinks he can give away the case to stupid ass fans.
And if this video is correct, this case is about $5.
Yeah, second of all, you're just giving your fans empty boxes. Okay, in all fairness, apparently the Deus Ex did come with a soundtrack. But and he can't like over and over and over again. He's doing it like doesn't come with the game though. I mean, yeah, granted it's a giveaway, but wow.
What is this he's holding? I'm trying to hear what he's.
Is that the one where his girlfriend was doing the jerk off motion behind his back?
I think so.
All right, she's gonna leave his ass soon too. First of all, I mean, Leanna's hardly a fucking supermodel, all right, but she is way cuter than Phil should be banging, all right. And I mean, basically, you know, any bangable woman is way cuter than Phil should be banging. But yeah, this is a young girl who I think got starstruck by Phil, and as he implodes, I think she's gonna jump ship. Apparently she's partnered with Machinima too. It'd be really funny if she still has a partnership with them. That'd be fucking hilarious. But yeah, he's just giving away empty boxes.
What is this? Like, did he so convinced that he's so awesome and cool that just having a box that was held by him is enough to would be a good giveaway?
I guess. You know, in case if you own this game but you lost the box, I guess this is your lucky day. Oh, and he has like a little slip of paper in the one with the digital download code, and he shows that that's in there, and he goes, "Yeah, but I already redeemed the code."
Ah.
Like, basically, here, you throw this away.
How on earth did this guy become famous?
Well, he is done at Machinima, so I mean that really begs the question of how long he's going to be able to keep doing this. Because, I mean, if he gets another partnership, it'll help protect him from copyright strikes. But that's it, and they'll probably be taking more money. Because it'll be, you know, a fly-by-night partnership that knows he's desperate. You know, one of those ones that contacts you like, I mean, I've been offered 7 partnerships in YouTube, like private messages,
right.
7 different partnerships from what are very obviously fly-by-night fucking companies. So I never even respond to them. You know, it's just the most generic fucking message you like. You have very nice original content. You know?
Yes. I got one when I was barely like 200 subscribers.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, would you like to... I'm like, no, I'd like it if you stop messaging me. Like, So we're going to be witnessing the end of Dark Side Phil here soon. I cannot imagine. Oh, and I just saw a Blackface Kermit tweet. Apparently, Spoonie's Patreon is under $1,000 now.
What happened?
Spoonie, you know, the Spoonie one. You remember Spoonie from you know, I Can't Believe I Used to Watch fame.
Yes.
Well, his Patreon, Blackface Kermit just put out a picture. His Patreon is under $1,000 now.
Oh.
Under $1,000. Now, bear in mind, that's basically what he lives off of. I mean, he might get some like advertising too or something, but I mean, it's been going the slow heat death for his career here lately, and rightfully so because you know, he is a shithead. Someone just messaged me on Skype and said it's $951 a month. Now, don't get me wrong, I would be grateful as all fucking hell if I set up a Patreon and I was even getting $951 a month, because first of all, I'm nowhere near Spoonie's level of notoriety, but also, you know, this is a side thing for me. I have a fucking day job, you know. $951 a month extra is a hell of a boost. $951 a month to just fucking live off of. Damn. But yeah, Spoonie. I mean, though I'm always surprised every day when I wake up and Spoonie hasn't killed himself. Like that's just shocking to me. I just think he just doesn't have the balls to end it. Is what it is. Like instead, he'd just rather slowly kill himself.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I didn't find these guys earlier in their careers. Otherwise, I'd have movie Bob experience all over again. Although there is some certain catharsis involved with that as well. But it's just depressing watching someone you like fall to pieces, or used to like.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed a lot of Spoonie's videos. Spoonie was a talented guy. I think my personal favorite is the video reviews he did of the Pumpkinhead game. Because that was just the perfect storm of obscure thing that he was covering that was based off of something. I mean, I had seen the Pumpkinhead movie, so it was based off something I knew. But, you know, it was this obscure game based off of it that he couldn't even find any information on. And it was just, you know, the game made virtually no fucking sense. And it was the perfect thing for him to be covering. It was one of his best videos. But, I mean, good Lord. And again, can you imagine being Spoonie or Darkside Phil or something and going in? And Darkside Phil even says this in his recent, you know, well, not quite this, but he hints around to this. He, you know, in his recent, you know, please donate money to me video, like, because he makes those weekly now, okay? Just an hour and a half of him explaining to you why you need to give money.
Seriously?
Yeah, which, by the way, please donate to my tip jar down below. But anyways, like just an hour and a half of his just straight e-begging. And yeah, he basically makes these damn near weekly now on his King of Hate vlogs. But anyways, he was explaining like, yeah, I'd have this big, you know, employment gap if I try to get work again. Now, here's the thing. Let's say you're a guy like Spoonie. Well, let's just say in general. Let's make it as general can be. That you made it big on YouTube for a while, but it just sort of petered out. And it's, you know, it's not bringing in the money anymore, and it's time to get a job. Okay. Well, you could go into an interview and just say to the boss outright, say, you know, what's with this employment gap? You know, if you get your interview, say, look, I started doing videos online as a hobby. It really took off in popularity. It was making me tons of money, so I started just doing it full-time as a job. I was living off of it. But, you know, taste changed. The public's fickle. For whatever reason, these things just ran its course. I don't have the same popularity I once did, so you know, it's just not paying the bills anymore. It's got to go back to being a hobby. I got to get back in the workforce. Explain it that way. I think the review, you know, the interviewer might understand. You know what I mean? I realize it's hard to explain to some HR lady or some baby boomer cocksucker being a YouTuber. But if you kind of sell it that way, you might be able to, you know, okay, that makes sense, you know. The problem then is if you're Spoonie or Darkside Phil, for example. If you're Spoonie, then this guy goes and looks at your because he's going to be curious. He's going to go look at your latest video, and it's going to be you strung out at 4 a.m. screaming at your fans. Or if you're Darkside Phil, it's going to be, you know, looking for you up on YouTube. It's going to be everybody, you know, making fun of what a dumb shithead you are. So the problem isn't just the employment gap. The problem is the fucking baggage they've created around themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, I can't imagine these guys being able to get a real fucking job anymore. I mean, that's not even to say that like doing that sort of like I'm not saying it's not real work to do what say Spoonie did, you know. Video editing is a pain in the ass. It can be a real pain in the ass. You know, you got to write up a script. You got to, you know, do the video editing. I mean, Nostalgia Critic burned himself out doing weekly shows, you know. I'm not saying it's not work, but it's certainly not back-breaking work. You know what I mean? And there's certainly a freedom to it that you don't have it.
It's the kind of job you're more like yeah, it's the kind of job you're going to more likely get diabetes than you will pulling your back.
Yes. You know, I mean, you know, you roll out of bed when you're done sleeping, not when an alarm clock goes off. And that's a great luxury. That's easy to take for granted. Yeah, Spoonie is in fucking trouble. I under $1,000. I mean, I didn't realize it was that bad. Last I had heard, it was like 1,400, something like that. I mean, shit. Fucking Darkside Phil is getting more a month than Spoonie. More people will give Darkside Phil money than Spoonie.
Ooh.
You know, Noah, on the off chance you're listening to that, that should be what drunks call a moment of clarity. I realize I'm jumping around here a little bit, but I just remembered I want to talk about this was kind of funny. Apparently the cartridges for the Nintendo Switch are coated in some sort of material that is supposed to be the worst taste known to man.
Worst taste?
Yes, I guess to prevent kids from trying to eat them or something, because they're small ass little things. You know what I mean? They're like,
right,
like the 3DS sizes. But the worst taste known to man. Well, now everybody's licking it because they want to know what the hell that is. Like now more people want to lick it. Because that's almost like you're discovering something about the universe. Like, what is the worst taste known to man, you know? So you almost trigger scientific curiosity in people and force them to do. Nobody wanted to lick the things until they said that. You could have just done that and not said anything about it. Looks like Undertow's home.
Oh, goody.
I'll send him the invite. All right. So, something else I wanted to comment on, and because my dog almost died, so I was, all fucking navel gazing today and self-reflecting and all that shit. But I found the past couple weeks I had been weirdly like reminiscing about old girlfriends and shit like that. You know what I mean? And old times and stuff. And I'm like, am I getting fucking really old or what the hell? I mean, girls that I don't want back. You know what I mean? Like, I know that was a fucking disaster. It's not like I'm truly pining for them and want them back. Don't misunderstand me. But I found myself just, spinning my wheels, thinking about the past more and more. You know what I mean? And something dawned on me. I recently got Sirius satellite radio, as kind of a gift of a year subscription, and I've been listening basically 90% of the time to the 90s on 9 and Pop 2K. To music I had as a teenager. And I just put two and two together. I said, that's why the fuck I'm getting caught up in this goddamn, stuck in the glory days navel gazing bullshit. Right? And I actually I realize now why so many of these fucking baby boomer cocksuckers get stuck in the same damn thing, because all they ever listen to is the oldies station. It's kind of not good to be caught in nostalgia too much. It's kind of not good to focus too much on the past. It really isn't. Now, don't get me wrong.
At the very least, you should look to the past for inspiration, not a place to live in.
Yes. Like, don't get me wrong. You need a connection to the past. You both your past and, the past in general, tradition, your culture, your people, what have you. But yeah, it's not a place to live. And I think it's too easy to get caught up in that. And I don't think it's emotionally healthy. Like, the more I was looking back, I'm like, I'm getting caught up in some, I found myself spinning my wheels mentally about, this or that mistake from 10, 15 years ago I may have made. And I'm like, why? And it's like, because I'm listening to fucking, 15, 20-year-old music all goddamn day long. Like, this kind of shit needs to maybe be enjoyed in moderation a little bit.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't really hear a lot of music that catches my attention these days, or movies,
Well,
or
yeah.
or anything that for that matter.
I mean, yeah, there's the fact that, the entertainment industry has run itself into such a ditch lately. But still, don't. That's. I think that's good advice. A lot of you are probably my age or maybe younger. It's good advice to give your parents, because your parents are probably really caught up into that shit. I bet you your parents, if they're boomers or around that age, they probably stick to the oldie station and shit. And that's probably not all that good for them. It's just a kind of a thought. It's a bit of an observation I had this week. But I think it's worth noting. Undertow, nice of you to join us.
Hi.
Yeah.
DSP, Movie Bob, Chris Chan, The Amazing Atheist, The Amish. All right, if you're playing the Chris Bechtloff drinking game at home, you should now be dead.
Oh, we haven't gotten to the Amish yet.
We haven't mentioned about I don't think we mentioned Chris Chan either. Which reminds me, I should just go ahead and plug it because we'll have it up soon. Friday, I recorded part 1 in a new show I intend to keep doing regularly. Now, the working title of the show was Adventures in Autism. I believe I announced it on the Bechtloff Facebook page and Twitter and whatnot. I'm actually going to call the show What Do You Know About It? The premise of this show is I sit down with a normie friend or family member or colleague or whatever, somebody who doesn't waste half their life on the internet, and I point out some internet insanity to them and sit down with them and explain it to them as they sit there, jaw on the fucking floor, like, what the hell are you telling me? And just get their reaction to it. This week, I had a friend of mine named John on, and I explained to him the saga of Chris Chan. Undertow and I sat down and taught this man about Christopher Weston Chandler and his amazing adventures in autism. I think
Bechtloff, you enjoy torturing people, don't you?
I'll have you know that Chris Chan is a high functional autistic.
Well, it's funny you should ask that, Luke. I have dabbled in certain black arts, but that's neither here nor there. But yes, and if all goes well, next week I'm planning on sitting down with my father, actually, and I have a very special topic planned for him. At the end of this week's show, which I think should probably be up tomorrow, you will get a teaser for that topic. Other topics I'm planning on include things like DSP, Amazing Atheist, just shit like that. I don't even want to spoil too much, but that's the idea of the show. I basically take a normie, and we're going to sit down, and I'm going to be like, are you ready to go on this adventure in autism with me, this road trip in retardation? And so that's the idea of that show. A little programming note that should be up tomorrow. I think it turned out pretty good for a first episode. And we jump all around because it's hard to stay chronological with Chris Chan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just so much. The lore is so dense.
Every single story has so many things going on.
Yeah, every single story foreshadows into much later stories.
It's like poetry. It rhymes. You might not have noticed it.
Brain did.
But your brain did.
All right. Undertow, do you have any thoughts on the Switch launch?
Nope.
Because it doesn't sound like it was going well.
I didn't pay any attention to it because I have been hella busy the past couple days. Actually, not only did I record that with you, as soon as I was done, I went to play my first ever game of Rogue Trader, which unfortunately only ended up with us making a ship and stuff. Rogue Trader, for those of you who are interested, is the original name of Warhammer 40,000, the fantasy universe I've been explaining recently. But the current edition of Rogue Trader is the Dungeons and Dragons-esque pen and paper RPG set in the 40K universe. So Anyway, that was fun getting to meet some new people. But I had to leave that early before we actually got to gameplay, because I had a gig today. I was doing some announcing for a weightlifting meet on the other side of town. Actually, the town next door. Got a text message after midnight that the person who was letting this friend of mine rent all this audio equipment to set up this gym for the meet, he just broke all of his audio equipment.
Oh.
So after midnight, he's just like, oh yeah, by the way, I don't have anything. So I had to scrounge together an old guitar amp. I took the microphone and soundboard that I use to talk with this, drove all the way over there, at 6 a.m. after I had to be up past midnight to get all this stuff ready. And then I sat in a folding chair from 8 o'clock until 5 with 20 minutes of a break.
Oh.
And then when I tried to go home, the street was gridlocked because there was a car accident on a 3-mile bridge.
Oh.
And it took me an hour to go 15 minutes worth of driving. So I've had kind of a not pay attention to Nintendo couple of days.
Well, as I said earlier in this, I had a hell of a couple of days too. What with my dog almost dying, but
yeah.
Anyways, the Switch launch is sounding like, I mean, it's in some ways it's typical console launch shit where everything is launched all broken and shit. But because it's Nintendo, game media isn't going to run interference for them. Let's see. What else did I want? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and let's do the sponsors, shall we?
Well, before we get to that, actually, since you're talking about the Switch launch, do you have any info on sales numbers so far?
I do not, but they're sold out all over the fucking place. So I mean, sales numbers.
That's pretty typical with any console launch, but
sales numbers are whatever the hell they made.
Well, that at least is a good sign.
Yeah, but there's some real problems that need to be corrected.
Such as?
Let me grab the article real quick. I'll just reiterate them. This article listed a few. The Switch's dock will sometimes scratch the screen if you're not careful.
Oh no!
There are problems with the screen.
Before we even go any further, that is a fatal flaw.
Yes.
How did that get through testing?
There are problems with the screen. It just shit in the bed on everybody. A lot of people are getting a very common error code. The charger port is on the bottom of the thing, which is just an ergonomic problem, but that's not a huge deal. That's just other Bluetooth device interference, which is just an all too common problem with wireless shit in general. We are running far too many things wireless these days, and it's just beginning to, those in much the same way you can end up with a tangle of wires, you can end up with a tangle of wireless signals, I guess.
It's creating that in-air lag.
Yep, you're getting all that that Wi-Fi lag. Also, people who try to put on decorative skins that a lot of aftermarket companies make are finding that it is not reacting well with the material that these things are made of and scratching the fuck out of them.
Well, in that case, those people deserve it.
Well, okay, so D-brand.
No, that's a horrible flaw, but let's be real.
It's not a huge thing.
Anyone who sticks decals all over their console, what is wrong with you?
Look,
are you 12? If
it's the worst thing if that's the worst problem you have, whatever.
Well, but that's not the worst problem.
No.
Scratching the screen when you put it in the dock, that is a far worse problem.
But yeah, D-brand apparently makes customizable skins for all manner of electronics, and they have had to recall all of their Switch skins because it's fucking things up. And again, whether you like decals on your shit or not, the point is these people make this stuff for electronics regularly, so it's not like the problem isn't with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The problem is this is some sort of weird material they're using here. But that's
they've invented a new Nintendium.
Yeah, well, they need to.
But it probably seems
invented anti-Nintendium. It seems.
Yeah. Scratches the screen when you put it on the dock. That is unforgivable.
Well, I mean, look, and I'm glad that I didn't get a chance to get one. I know better than to buy a console at launch. All right,
but wait, you were going to try to get one?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
And I would have if my dog wasn't sick. I went into Best Buy at 1:00, and he told me they just sold out at 11:30. And my original plan was to go when they open. So if I didn't have that emergency in the morning, I probably would have ended up getting one at Best Buy. All right, so moving on, let's talk about the sponsors. This week we got the typical sponsor of Ojo Negro, the independent comic book, which check it out. Good stuff, written from a non-cucked, non-globalist perspective. Not enough good comics out there, and it is, of course, available in both print and audio format. So do check out Ojo Negro. And also, we have Race Riot Apparel is back. And Luke, go ahead. Make sure you throw some of this up on the screen. He has upped his game since last time. He's now got, just better quality of shirts available. He's new and improved Race Riot Apparel. So get you some Shitlord shirts. They're good stuff there. If you use the... Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. I thought there was a promo code. There's not. No. But no, go ahead and, yeah. Sorry, I am a mess this week. But yes, do check out our sponsor, Race Riot Apparel. Get you some Shitlord shirts. And check out our sponsor Ojo Negro, independent comic book. And, remember, checking out our sponsors helps me because it makes the sponsors want to be sponsors longer. And also, you'll see the tip jar down below. And, tips are always appreciated. Donations are always appreciated to help me keep doing what I'm doing. This week in particular, they'd be especially appreciated as my wallet took a nice little kick in the balls on Friday. But yeah, if you want to keep seeing me doing what I'm doing, that helps me immensely. Even just $1, big help. Any amount you can spare. All right, so let's move on. We got a couple other stories here
today on the somber and depressing podcast.
Yeah, like I said, forgive me, people. My head is a little jumbled. It's been a hell of a weekend.
Yeah. I think we both had them. Luke, you're probably fine. Nothing phases you.
Yeah, Luke.
I need to give myself more activities.
He doesn't have feelings. He's like, look at these two women.
Have you considered miniature wargaming?
I don't think I have a budget for that.
Your wallet will never forgive you.
Yeah, you talk about kicking a ball to your wallet. So I didn't want to cover a lot of politics this week because, in all honesty, I'm a little burned out. But I did want to. Trump had, well, it wasn't a State of the Union. I think it was just a joint address to Congress. I don't think it was his actual State of the Union, but I could be wrong on that. Point is, he had a really bitchin' speech earlier this week.
Yes.
I mean, extremely. Look, I don't think there was a tremendous amount of substance to it, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but it was extremely presidential. Bumped his approval ratings up, and that's when the media started to go hardcore with all this Russia shit the past couple of days, which there is nothing to, by the way. This nonsense that they got Sessions. They showed he's a Russian agent. You know what they got Sessions on? As a fucking senator, he talked to a Russian ambassador one time. That's their smoking gun.
So
That's their smoking gun. You know, because it's not like members of our government talk to ambassadors. It's not like that's what ambassadors do.
Well, after the Oscars, I think everyone is like, I think more people were watching a Trump speech that night than they were watching the Oscars. And I think it's because people are really starting to see just what charlatans and liars and horrible people, quote unquote, celebrities and news and public figures generally are.
Yeah.
Look at that military.
You know, I mean, Chuck Todd was on Twitter a while ago complaining it's really dangerous for Trump to be delegitimizing the media. And it's like, buddy, you delegitimized yourself. All right.
Mm-hmm.
He just tried to spotlight on what you're doing. It's been a hell. I mean, the Russian stuff was really it's such a ridiculous stretch. And I'm sorry, but the same people who dare to think that if you think maybe there's something to Pizzagate, if you think that maybe it's kind of odd that a little dive pizza place has the most powerful people in Washington eating there, and that place also has murals of children being tortured on the wall, if you think that's a little bit odd, well, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. But if you don't think Sessions is a Russian agent because he talked to an ambassador one time, well, you clearly must be getting some rubles from the Kremlin too, huh?
Come on, that's that the Russians hacked the envelopes.
Yeah, that's a big part of why nobody takes them seriously anymore.
Yeah, and you know, I completely forgot. Yeah, Sunday was the Oscars, wasn't it?
I didn't watch them. I just heard about what.
Well, I didn't watch it either because I'm a heterosexual male. But okay, so apparently this one shitty movie, they announced that it won, but it turned out it was this other shitty movie that won.
Yeah.
That's your story right there.
Well, what it was is they handed the guy the best actress envelope, and he was confused because he looks over at the co-hostess, and he's like, "Wait a minute, this has a person's name on it, not just the movie." And she goes, "La La Land, obviously." But it was the actress from La La Land had won the Oscar. And they were 3 people into their acceptance speech when he came back out and said, no, sorry, this other one won.
Yeah, the Moonlit one, the one about the gay black man that no one wanted to see.
Yeah.
Well, did anybody go see La La Land while we're on the subject? I mean, I never even heard of these movies until Oscar.
Everyone who saw it hated it. And the only reason
it was Bug Chasers, the movie.
No, the only reason La La Land was in the Oscars because it was about Hollywood. That's what always wins at the Oscars. Remember when somebody made a modern silent movie and it was about the history of theater? And it was like, oh, this has clearly got to get the Oscar because it's about Hollywood.
About us, we're the most important thing in the world.
Here's the thing. What people don't realize is they are the Academy Awards. These are just the industry awards for a particular industry. This is like the people who get the golden stapler for working at Staples. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just that movies are such a big part of pop culture that it's become this prestigious deal. Well, seriously.
Here's the thing about the Oscars. First of all, this is the other meme that's been floating around. Suicide Squad won an Oscar for Best Hair and Makeup, which
I know.
Suicide Squad is an Oscar-winning film. Wrap your fucking mind around that. But point is, they were contrasting that to contrasting that to some of the practical effects in the new Star Trek movie, the aliens and all.
Mm-hmm.
And then you compare it to fucking Hot Topic Harley Quinn, and it's like, fucking really?
Yep, really.
But anyways, here's the thing about the Oscars. Here's why, even the politics of it aside, I have not taken the Oscars seriously for most of my fucking life. I saw through them at the age of 15, all right? Because something that as a nerd has always annoyed me is how much the Oscars routinely shuns, even to this day, and they're a little bit better than they were, any sort of sci-fi or fantasy movie.
Genre films.
Genre films.
Because stuff that isn't about fantasy or sci-fi. That's just not in a genre. Wrap your head around that.
Yeah, they call it genre films as if every movie isn't in some manner of genre, but whatever. And here's a perfect example of it. The year the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, right? Now, look, the Hobbit movies were shit, but the Lord of the Ring movies, those are some damn fine flicks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the cinematography alone is worth the ticket price. But anyways, the year the first Lord of the Ring movies came out, you know what won Best Picture that year? Anybody want to guess?
You told me, so I won't give it away.
You want to guess, Luke? You want to guess what won Best Picture the year the first Lord of the Rings?
I forgot what was in that within theaters.
Chicago. This gay ass fucking musical starring Gerbil and his ass Richard Gere won fucking Best Picture of the year, and I was hardly the most red-pilled motherfucker on the internet, as Monday Matt likes to say. Back then, I wasn't quite as woke as we like to say online back then. But even back then, I remember thinking, like, how much of a flaming faggot do you have to be to think Chicago is a better movie than Lord of the Rings? And it was at that moment I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the Oscars are never to be taken remotely seriously.
Yeah, back when MovieBot was still relevant, he had this awesome little bit about why Oscars suck, and basically it's because everything is decided by old retired actors.
Yeah. Is there like an Oscars for anime? That might be worth watching. If only because they probably would have insane skits between all the award shows.
There's an equivalent of the Oscars for comic books called an Eisner, which is named after Will Eisner, the guy that created The Spirit. And many would consider him one of the greatest in the industry ever seen. I don't necessarily think that's accurate, but it is what it is. Anyways, I've often noticed that mainstream superhero books, even back when they were good, now, yeah, but they never won fucking Eisners, almost never. It was always some indie piece of garbage no one gave a shit about.
Well, you can't feel smart about giving an award to something that's popular.
Exactly. Now maybe that, everybody's a fucking black transsexual Muslim in a wheelchair making out with each other in the fucking Avengers. Maybe now they give it an Eisner. I don't know.
I wonder what the categories for anime would be. Most brutal death, best girl,
best tentacle rape.
Yeah, most erotic rape scene. It'd be entertaining.
Yeah. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? I wanted to do some comic shit. Let me go ahead and where the hell did I have those notes?
I can waste time with more Warhammer all the time.
You know what? Go ahead and rip into Warhammer for a little bit.
All right, so
while I gather my my shit on the comic stuff.
I gave kind of a broad overview last time around, but I want to talk about why exactly everything is so dark in the far future, and why this one guy basically took over all of humanity and turned it into this horrifying empire. You see, I already mentioned the warp in 40K. Is that a ghost? Is that the ghost train? The whistle of the ghost train that I hear?
No, that's just the plumbing in my house.
Oh, geez. You have my condolences. Anyway, I mentioned how there's this hyperspace mirror dimension called the warp, which is affected by people's thoughts. Well, it sometimes undergoes things called warp storms, wherein this unreality sort of magic stuff billows forth into the real world, or the materium, as they call it in the setting. At the end of the big golden age where everything was nice and happy like Star Trek, warp storms suddenly engulfed pretty much the majority of the galaxy, including a storm that was directly around Earth itself, which was, still the capital of the human empire. And for several thousand years, space travel was basically impossible, and all the planets were isolated from each other. So what happened on Earth was, because there was a warp storm directly around it, it basically devolved into this post-apocalyptic war zone where all of the previous nations of the world formed big Cold War-esque conglomerates, like, an Eastern Bloc sort of thing, the various different states. And it's interesting that the rulers of these states during the several thousand years in what they call the Age of Strife, it was basically, they're referred to as techno-barbarians, which is really interesting. And it can be summed up by this. It's a bunch of people with nuclear warheads who are actually willing to use them for no reason.
Oh.
And so it was pretty much a hellhole. But there emerged during this hellish time on Earth a man calling himself simply the Emperor. Or at least that's what he would come to call himself later. The history of this era is, for obvious reasons, very distorted. But he went about a small crusade upon the Earth, claiming that he was going to reunite humanity and that his vision for the future would deliver us from destruction. And over time, he came to take over the entirety of Earth, referred to as Terra in the 40K universe, because, again, Latin and all that kind of stuff. So he took over the majority of Earth, and then eventually all of it, which is a long story. But anyway, eventually the warp storms receded. And the first planet that they made contact with when the Emperor took some of his guys out and started going back into space was Mars, because, of course, it's right there. And the Martians used to have a terraformed Mars that was beautiful and lush, but over the Age of Strife, when they were isolated, they became more and more reliant on their machines, to the point where they actually developed a religion of machine worship, and they worshipped something called the Machine God. And they had a prophecy of one called the Omnissiah, one who will save all, humans and machine alike. They hold basically that machines are simpler than organic beings and therefore are better, but organic beings are needed to build machines. And it's like this almost Buddhist kind of thing. Anyway, they've developed into this thing called the priesthood of Mars. They're referred to as tech priests. During the warp storms and the insanity of the Age of Strife, not only were a lot of civil wars breaking out and viruses being launched into all these high-tech machines, there were actual demons possessing machines. So basically, they came to develop all these, you can refer to them as rituals of maintenance. They'll perform a liturgy of lubrication, which is oil the barrel of your gun before you shoot it, basically. They don't really understand how technology works. Well, that's not fair. They understand how technology works, but only at the most basic level, and all sorts of higher functions further on is attributed to something called machine spirits. And everyone in the Imperium of Man believes in the machine spirits, because basically, after this golden age of Star Trek level technology, there's little fragments of AIs in basically every machine. And the demons and otherworldly beings that slipped through into the material universe during the warp storms of the Age of Strife and wound their way into machinery also sort of give them personalities. So when they say that they're communing with the machine spirit as they fix your gun by lighting a candle next to it and offering prayers, what they might actually be doing is, unbeknownst to themselves, activating some kind of ancient form of Siri and voice recognition stuff to cause the gun to reset itself, if it's a laser gun or something like that. Anyway, when the Emperor, this big guy in golden armor that had this otherworldly glow around him, got to Mars, a whole bunch of the tech priesthood of Mars was like, oh, well, this guy must be the prophesied Omnissiah. Well, half of them. there was actually a lot of arguing over this, and the Emperor basically said, okay, I'm going on a big crusade to reunite all of the isolated planets of the human empire. You have two options. Join me or die. However, since they were the first people he made contact with, he offered them a special sale. They get to maintain somewhat of an autonomous position within the empire. So after this, the Emperor goes off to launch his great crusade and retake all the planets of man, which is why in the year 40,000, 10,000 years later, basically the entire universe is populated by humans, or the entire galaxy, I should say. But wherever the humans go, there are the cyborgs of Mars, the tech priests, and they are referred to sometimes as engineers, like engineers, but with seer at the end. It's very much take your average Joe mechanic and make it a religion. And that's what the tech priests are all about. They love augmenting themselves with all kinds of robot parts and everything. And they think that the more machine-like they can be, the better. And this leads to a lot of them being sort of unrelatable to most non-augmented humans. And they're seen with a lot of distrust, because when the Emperor went out and reconquered the rest of the galaxy, he did so in such a spectacular fashion that basically everybody else began worshiping him as a god. Because, I mean, when a 12-foot tall giant in golden armor with a giant halo of light around him and a big billowing red cape steps from the sky and forces all of the armies warring in your valley to stop touching each other and be like, we're going to be all united now, what else are you going to call that person, right? And over time, everything got distorted. Actually, for political reasons, a lot of the people who would go on to take over the managerial positions of the empire sort of propagate this myth of him being a living god, and in fact make it a state religion called the Imperial Creed, which is very sad because his original vision was called the Imperial Truth. He was very adamant to tell people, I am not a god. I am just I've got all this powerful stuff and I'm using it to my advantage because I have enough foresight to see that bad things are heading our way and we need to be together. What kind of bad things? I'll save that for next time when we talk about the dark gods. But
all right.
But to close it out, after his crusade, the Emperor was mortally wounded and is now basically a corpse. He's technically on life support, but he's, for all intents and purposes, brain dead. And all the people underneath him and their descendants, of course, 10,000 years later, those are now the people actually running the Imperium of Man.
Cool.
That's just a little bit of the basic lore of 40K of the Imperium of Man. I'm going to go faction by faction. So next time around, chaos.
Oh, I'd like to see someone get that under 2 minutes.
All right. So
that was a short version.
Well, that's the thing when you've nerded out about something for so long and people like ask you about it, you have to be almost careful you don't info dump too much on them.
Right.
Speaking of which, I'm about to nerd out on some comic books. First, I want to talk about some a Spider-Man villain I really, really love. This is a future liberals want meme. But anyways, I really, really love Carnage as a villain. Now, for a while, Carnage was shit on these past few years as, oh, it's just a product of the 90s. For those of you who don't know, Carnage's story is, which again, you got to info dump here. I got to tell you about Venom before I can tell you about Carnage. So quick backstory here. Spider-Man gets the black costume while on an alien world with a bunch of other superheroes in an event called Secret Wars. Alien costume is actually an alien symbiote / parasite, depending on how you look at it, that breaks off from him and joins Eddie Brock, who was a reporter that Peter Parker had recently humiliated. But actually, no, in the comics, it was Spider-Man that humiliated him. I'm getting the movie mixed up almost in my head there. And what had happened was Eddie Brock lied. There was a serial killer called the Sin Eater running around. And Eddie Brock went with this source of who the Sin Eater really was, and it was false. And when Spider-Man captured the Sin Eater, the Sin Eater, that exposed Brock's story as horseshit. So he sort of blamed Spider-Man for that, which is stupid, but people are stupid sometimes. Well, Brock ends up discovering the symbiote because Spider-Man gets rid of the symbiote in a church bell tower, much like in Spider-Man 3, that Brock is in because he's praying because he's about ready to commit suicide. Well, Brock ends up with the symbiote and becomes Venom. Well, after a while, Brock is in a cell separated from the symbiote. The symbiote has broken out of whatever scientific lab it was imprisoned in, went to go find Brock, and Brock becomes Venom again and bolts the fuck out of there, breaks right through the wall because they didn't have him in a supervillain prison because he didn't have superpowers. They just had him in a regular old prison. Well, once he's Venom, that ain't gonna do no more. So he breaks right through the fucking barred window and gets the hell out of there. Well, his cellmate was a serial killer named Cletus Cassidy, and unbeknownst to Venom, the symbiote had a little baby. It spawned. It had a little spawn. They reproduce asexually primarily, and they had left a little spawn that Cletus Cassidy found, and he became Venom. Or I'm sorry, he became Carnage. Misspoke there. And Spider-Man and Venom would actually team up to fight Carnage because Venom tells himself he's a good guy. I hate Spider-Man because he's a douche, but I'm actually a hero and I protect people too. So Venom and Spider-Man would actually team up against Carnage a great deal. Now, as I said, Carnage is extremely unfairly shit on, and he was actually hated by a lot of the writers at the time because he's so violent. I don't like it. Makes my pussy hurt. And I've just never understood it. And I've never understood how the same writers and the same fans can think that a nihilistic serial killer is the best thing in the fucking world if he wears clown makeup and fights Batman. But if he has a symbiote and he fights Spider-Man, then he's just a stupid product of the 90s. Carnage has had 2 one-shots, which I highly recommend checking out. One was called Mind Bomb, and the other was called It's a Wonderful Life. And both are essentially just explorations into the mind of Cletus Cassidy. Kind of literally, which I don't want to spoil anything, but definitely worth checking out, both of those. You can go on any kind of back issue site like Mile High Comics, and I don't think either one of them would run you more than $5. But yeah, Carnage is pretty badass in my opinion. And one of the things I really like about him is Spider-Man has a very strict no killing rule. He has vowed he will never take the life of a sentient thing. And Carnage kind of, you have such an irredeemable shitbag as Carnage, and it really kind of tests that rule, doesn't it?
Kind of like the Joker.
Yeah.
Again.
In fact, there's actually a scene at the end of a storyline called Maximum Carnage, which I'm going to get into that storyline here in a minute because that's another one that's unfairly shit on. At the end of Maximum Carnage, Venom is about ready to just fucking, he's got Carnage on the ropes. He's about ready to cut this motherfucker's head off. Enough's enough with this guy. And Spider-Man jumps in between and is like, no, he had a bad childhood. That's basically what he said, right? And Carnage then hits him from behind and is like, even I don't buy that bullshit. Carnage calls him a pussy, basically.
Lol.
So the Maximum Carnage storyline. The story here is Carnage breaks out of prison, and on the way out, he finds this superpowered chick named Shriek, who's basically she can create sonic blasts, and she has very, very low-level psychic powers. Very low level. She can just sort of influence people's moods.
She can bend spoons.
Yeah, and
but not forks, only spoons.
yeah, only spoon. This is the first we ever see
Low
her.
level.
Like, so she, we for all we know at this point, she maybe had become a supervillain and maybe was just taken down by a cop. Who knows? She was that sucky at it. But anyways, she's all like, "Hey, baby," and then Carnage is like, "You want to come with me?" And she's like, "Sure." And then that's Carnage's new girlfriend. Well, they go running around town killing people as they tend to do, and they end up sort of forming a posse that Carnage kind of identifies as a as a family, as it were. One is Carry On, which is this guy who he's just, I don't want to even get into Carry On's backstory because he's kind of stupid, but he can basically decompose organic matter by touching it. And he sort of floats around. He's almost like this. He's very ghoul-like in appearance.
It's carrion, by the way.
Carrion, thank you.
It's a type of, like, that's what they would use to refer
yes,
to
I know. I just
vultures.
I know the term. I just mispronounced it because I'm an idiot. Thanks for pointing it out, grammar Nazi. Anyways, so it was that guy, and then Demo Goblin, who I covered on here before, which is a personal favorite of mine, and a little creature known as Doppelganger. Luke, throw up some pictures of Doppelganger. We got one on here. Doppelganger is a nice little convoluted backstory. Back during an event called the Infinity Wars, this villain known as Magnus, he wanted to destroy the universe because, of course, he did. And he ends up like this guy named Warlock, who's basically Space Jesus. He actually teams up with Thanos to deal with Magnus. It's that bad. Well, while this is going on, Magnus decides he's going to get the heroes of Earth involved in this to muddy the water, as he puts it. That's the in-universe explanation. Really, we needed to get all the superheroes involved in the big event. It does indeed succeed in muddying the water without getting too much into it. But the way he does this is he creates evil doppelgangers of all of Earth's heroes to go on Earth and attack them. And then when Earth's heroes defeat them, they all sort of get together and say, "What the fuck was that?" And they end up investigating, and it sort of ends up leading them to Warlock and Thanos. And they think that, Thanos is controlling Warlock. Now, it was a big old thing. Most of the doppelgangers did not look nearly as cool as this, and most of them were actually kind of intelligent. They had basic intelligence of who they were their double. In fact, the Reed Richards doppelganger actually defeated him and was posing as Reed Richards for a while during this storyline. But the doppelganger Spider-Man, for whatever reason, basically had it and Daredevils were the only ones that survived Infinity War. And Spider-Man's, for some reason, had basically all the sentience and personality of a rabid dog. Now, this thing is actually really cool design-wise. It's got, obviously, the 8 limbs. It's got the 6 arms. It's got the segmented eyes and the symbiote character-type mouth. And it also, all 6 of its arms are able to shoot barbed webbing. So, I mean, it's basically like, Spider-Man if it was designed by Clyde Barker.
Metal, dude.
Yeah.
Barbed webbing.
Yeah, it's fucking gnarly. I mean, it's not much of a character.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty brutal.
It's not necessarily a character because, like I said, this is actually a scene here where Carnage and Shriek during Maximum Carnage start arguing, and Carnage basically goes all like, "You burned my dinner, bitch," and starts slapping her around. And Doppelganger at this point had formed this sort of bond with Shriek like a pet, and it tries to kill Carnage, and Carnage just shanks that motherfucker. Like, fuck you, buddy. I often wonder, like, can you imagine being the cop that has to, like, he just drops it in the alley. Can you imagine being the cop that has to go, like, find that and, like, is that Spider-Man? Dude, I don't think Spider-Man looks like that. I don't know. What? You pick it up. No, you pick it up. But anyways, the storyline of Maximum Carnage, like I said, Carnage forms this sort of posse, this pseudo family, and he's terrorizing the town. The Avengers are fucking off doing something else, and The Fantastic Four are, dicking around in some dimension full of monsters, or who knows what the hell they're doing. So basically, Spider-Man ends up teaming up with Venom and a handful of street-level characters. And Captain America was not with the Avengers for some reason. He ends up involved in this. But it's primarily just street-level guys. And he's got to deal with this. And then Shriek's low-level telepathy is causing everyone to riot. So they got to deal with that too. Black Lives Matter supporters are breaking out in the middle of all this. It's actually a pretty good read. The only real problem with it was it went on for 14 parts. And this was back before things were written in a more decompressed fashion with trade paperbacks in mind like they are now. It's 14 parts of a whole lot of things happening, but also kind of not a lot of things happening. You know what I mean? It sort of spins its wheels in a lot of cases. But it's also very action-packed. And it ran, like I said, the first part started in Spider-Man Unlimited, which was a quarterly book. And it ran for 4 months through the books. And then ended up in Spider-Man Unlimited #2 at the end of the 4-month period. So it was a huge summer event in the Spider-Man comics. Got its own video game for both the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Pretty decent beat-up game, if kind of punishingly hard. But a pretty good story, actually, all in all. Yeah, it's full of a lot of 90s cheese, but not really all that bad. And it was very unfairly shit on for the longest time. Again, just because everybody had this weird hate boner for Carnage. Writers would routinely try and write Carnage out, and which would only kind of end up butt fucking his continuity over the years, because then writers would bring him back because editors would demand it, only trying to write him out of the thing again. Which again, I've never understood it. I've never understood this animosity towards him. And I mean, aside from the fact that he was a character that just blew up in popularity, and when things get insanely popular, insanely fast, there's just this natural fucking backlash against it that a lot of people tend to have. That kind of, it's cool to hate the thing that's popular.
I think I see where the hatred for him comes from the writers and artists. In a lot of ways, he's just an edgy recolor of Venom, who was just an edgy recolor of Spider-Man.
Well, yes, but see,
on the most basic levels, and when you're first exposed to him, that's your gut reaction.
Visually, yes, I can understand somebody visually not being all about Carnage. Visually, Venom's more interesting. Hell, visually, Doppelganger's way more interesting than a pair of them, if you ask me. But the thing is, Venom's motivation was fucking stupid. Okay? Venom's characterization for the longest time was fucking stupid. I'm a hero, but I'm mad at Spider-Man because he, exposed my wrongdoing, so I'm going to murder his ass. Now, don't get me wrong. People are stupid like that sometimes. I could see a person being like that. But it doesn't necessarily make for the most compelling characterization. Whereas Carnage actually philosophically embracing nihilism and chaos worship. I mean, yeah, it's sort of, philosophy for fucking 14-year-olds in a way. But there's something to it. You know what I mean? There's actually something there. It's not necessarily the deepest of things, but there's something there. And like I said, the two books that went into, this is the panel I'm talking about, where he gets in between them right before Venom's about ready to murder his ass. But there's something to it. And again, like I said, I can understand, visually, oh, it's just an edgy recolor. But I think that's just a misconception, really. I think that's I think that kind of misses the point. In fact, I remember the Spider-Girl series that Tom DeFalco did that took place in a possible future where Spider-Man's teenage daughter has taken up his mantle. He made a big deal at one point he was going to have Carnage in it, which I'm sure some editor demanded because they were desperately trying to bring up sales on that book. But he basically just had it like the Carnage symbiote was held in some sort of a, government research facility, and maybe, I guess, Cletus Cassidy was long dead, and the Carnage symbiote gets out and just starts possessing people. And I remember reading that and being all disappointed. And I'm like, you know, that's not Carnage. You know, Carnage is more than just, you know, magic red alien goo. But again, I don't believe Tom DeFalco wanted to have Carnage in the book. That's actually not the Spider-Girl I'm thinking of. Again, because comics are weird. That's a Spider-Girl that's in the regular universe. But yeah, I can kind of see your point there of why writers kicked against it, which was actually a common problem for Marvel. They would end up with these sort of derivative characters, and then writers would kind of want to either change them to where they sort of were way different than the thing they were derivative of, or just write them out. You know what I mean? I think we covered this once before here, how like War Machine alien ended up with that crappy alien armor and that looked like ass, and like US Agent ended up looking like Judge Dredd for some fucking reason. Like that's just a common problem that ends up with this. You know, nobody's willing to really deal with this thing that they were sort of editorially mandated to make in some cases. But with Carnage, I think you have Carnage. Look, again, I'm not saying Cletus Cassidy is the, you know, most fucking in-depth villain of all time, but there's more there than Eddie Brock. Let me put it that way. There really is. All right, another story I want to cover, and it sort of hits the same notes as Maximum Carnage in some ways, which is ironic because it's universally acclaimed. A Spider-Man story called "The Death of Jean DeWolf." Now this is the story of the Sin Eater serial killer that I mentioned, in which early on in this storyline he murders a police detective named Jean DeWolf that was actually on very friendly terms with Spider-Man. They had a real mutual respect with one another. They routinely shared information with one another. And this was at a time when Spider-Man was not on especially good terms with the old NYPD. And she's one of the earliest victims of this serial killer. Now, this was one of the first times when Spider-Man is encountered with a really irredeemable villain whose murders just seem really senseless. I mean, not really the first time, but one of the earliest times where it really just fucking got to him. You know what I mean? And again, testing his no killing rule. He reaches a point where he's basically like, I'm gonna murder this son of a bitch when I get my hands on him. And Daredevil actually talks him down. I believe this is the story, if memory serves. I'd have to thumb through it again. But I'm pretty sure this is the story where Daredevil actually and Spider-Man actually exchange identities. Because they become huge friends for the longest time in the Marvel Universe. Very, very close friends. At a time when Spider-Man did not have very close relationships with other heroes. But Daredevil basically talks him down on that. And Death of Jean DeWolf is a great read. You can easily find it in trade. Same with Maximum Carnage. Like I said, any of these things I'm suggesting to you, go on Amazon and look for a trade, and you can probably find it really, really cheap. For some reason, trade paperbacks tend to be very, very cheap. The only exceptions seem to be certain things that intercompany crossovers that get reprinted in trade paperbacks will often spike in value a little bit because they'll just long be out of print. You know what I mean?
That and probably licensing fees.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, you know, say the JLA Avengers crossover. You know what I mean? Well, that's not going to be in print again until both Marvel and DC agree, and Disney and Time Warner, you know, Warner Brothers are not on the best of terms.
Yeah.
So, you know, trying to find the JLA Avengers trade is actually expensive. It's ironically more expensive, I think, than trying to find the 4 issues. But stuff like this that, you know, you just know after a few years Marvel's going to reprint yet again. Trade paperbacks like that are very accessible, very easy to find. So yeah, Death of Jane DeWolf and Maximum Carnage are both good reads if you're at all interested in Spider-Man. Now, speaking of Daredevil, I want to go through some Daredevil reads that I highly suggest. The first two, and I would suggest reading them in this order, even though they didn't really come out in this order, is Daredevil Yellow and Daredevil Guardian Devil. Now, Daredevil Yellow is a modern-day retelling of some of Daredevil's earliest adventures, including his earliest meetings with Karen Page, his secretary, then turned love interest. And the yellow is referring to his yellow costume that he had originally in the first few issues of the book back in the Silver Age.
It's funny because he thought it was red, but they just gave him the wrong one and laughed because he was blind.
Well, actually, it's modeled heavily after his father's.
I know that was
his
just
father's boxing robe for battling Jack Murdock. In fact, there was actually a parallel universe story in Fantastic Four where Daredevil was part of that world's superhero team, and he was called Battling Jack. And I think they referenced it like he claims to be the ghost of Jack Murdock in that world. But anyways, Jack Murdock is his father that was a boxer. For those of you not all that familiar with Daredevil lore, who was murdered by mobsters after he refused to take a dive. But Daredevil Yellow retells some of his earliest adventures, including when his law firm was hired by the Fantastic Four as their on-retainer lawyers. But really good read, and it really dives into the relationship him and Karen Page would have. And then I would really kind of suggest checking out Guardian Devil. Guardian Devil was the first story arc when they launched Daredevil in a volume 2 back in, I think, 98. They moved Daredevil into the Marvel Knights line, which was their edgy line. But
extreme.
Kevin Smith was actually the writer for it at this time. And while there's all manner of problems with Kevin Smith, he is a damn good superhero writer when he's actually finishes his shit. And this is a tremendous read. I don't even want to spoil that much in it. Daredevil, like at one point in this, he thinks he's given a baby that some people are telling him is the Antichrist. That he's like.
I think you could just stop there because that's already enough.
There's this really awesome scene with Black Widow. He calls Black Widow over because he needs her help, right? And Black Widow and him were a couple for the longest time. Black Widow, and she's all like, "Oh, I see how it is. Call the godless Russian over when you're lonely, huh? Your girlfriend left, huh?" And then she's like, "Well, unlike you, I actually can put my feelings aside and take care of my base urges." She starts unzipping her outfit. She's like, "Couch or roof?" And he's like, No. I just need you to watch this kid while I go out. And then she's all like, "Come on, I was an Avenger." Stuck watching a baby. I do not want to spoil it, but how things end up in the end of this storyline, it's really, really good. And I loved it a lot. I highly recommend it. I think it's one of my favorite Daredevil storylines. And also, another favorite villain of mine in Daredevil is someone known as Typhoid Mary. Now, Typhoid Mary is multiple personalities character. Like, one is this sweet Mary who has no idea even about the other one. And then Typhoid is this femme fatale, and she has pyrokinetic powers, and she's a trained assassin, and all that typical bullshit. Your run-of-the-mill femme fatale character. She's actually been romantically entangled with Daredevil, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, and Deadpool. So she's made the rounds.
Did you think the Ghost Rider was hot?
But I mean, don't get me wrong. Black Widow's made the rounds too. I mean, good God, I could get into Black Widow's fucking answer.
That joke just went sailing without any reception.
Yeah. I got it. I just didn't think it was funny.
Oh, I got it, but I ain't laughing.
as Meatwad once said. Well, and actually, there's a Typhoid miniseries from like the early '90s that's like shockingly dark. Like it starts with her working as a dominatrix. But anyways, she was like a kingpin hired bodyguard. She had taken up the role Bullseye used to have. And the early story arc with her, you could probably find like trade paperbacks. If you just Googled like Daredevil Typhoid Mary, you could find all manner of cool stuff. Or even Wolverine Typhoid's Kiss is another interesting storyline with her. But one of my favorite moments and why I absolutely love Daredevil is because Daredevil is one of the few Marvel Comics heroes I know of who has defeated an enemy with his cock.
What?
Because there's this one storyline where Daredevil has just had fucking enough, and he decides he is going to just wreck the Kingpin shit. No more fucking around. All right? He's going to tear through his stuff and, you know, maybe even kill him. He's that determined. And I believe it's 297 is the issue of Daredevil where this storyline starts. Well, first things first, he's got to deal with Typhoid Mary. So he lures her out onto this rooftop fight and basically fucks her, like holds her down, gets her all turned on, fucks her until she reverts back into the nice, sweet personality. And then when she falls asleep, dumps her ass in a nut house. He defeated a villain with his cock. And I mean, if you want to know why I love Daredevil, why like a guy like Razor Fist loves Daredevil so much, that's why. All right, you know, the Hulk might be pretty strong, but he's never fucked anything into willingly being defeated.
Yeah, you had to clarify that sentence a few times, didn't you? I heard the predicate of that phrase take a few turns there.
There's actually there's a Defender story that comment leads into, which I could get into.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so Dormammu, right? If you've seen the
I have come to bargain.
You know about Dormammu. Well, Dormammu has a sister. I want to say Uma, something like that.
Hold up. Time out before we even start. How can a cosmic being have a sister? Do they have parents?
I don't know. The same way Greek gods have brothers and sisters, okay?
So Dormammu's father ate. No, wait. That makes no sense.
Don't know. I don't believe there is an explanation, okay?
Okay.
It's female that lives in his dimension that's about on equal power level with him that he refers to as a sister.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the term sister might even be, you know, just the closest equivalent. Well, the point is, basically, like, in a Defender series. Now, Defenders, I realize there's a Netflix series called Defenders coming up, but in the comic, the original Defenders were a team comprised of Hulk, Doctor Strange, Silver Surfer, and Namor, which is an incredibly
that's a
powerful
pretty cool team up.
That's a powerful quartet right there. And there were other heroes that ended up involved in the team, but that's the core. You know, that's the four founders right there.
Sidebar: how much would it suck to be Captain Namor? It's like, oh, you're the knockoff of the worst superhero.
Actually, Namor came out well before Aquaman.
I know, but that's what everybody's going to think he is.
Yeah.
So that just adds even more salt to the wound.
Well, once Marvel does a Namor movie, then everyone's going to fucking forget Aquaman even exists. All right? Like, nobody's going to even remember.
Is he going to go around looking for evil?
Yeah. And everyone's gonna just like with like the Avengers movies, everyone's gonna pretend like they were always a fucking fan of Namor. like everyone's been down with Doctor Strange for 30 years now, all of a sudden. But anyways, in this storyline, like it was just like a 5-issue Defenders miniseries from like the mid 2000s. but I can't remember how the fuck it exactly happens. But like somehow, like she ends up fucking the Hulk until like he reverts back to like Bruce Banner, and then she like is like mad because she can't fuck it anymore.
That is really disgusting.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, this was back when there was some taste to it, so this is all sort of implied. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like overtly said.
I can only think of one way mechanically that works, though, and that's really, really gross.
Mm.
Like, I would not want to be her gynecologist, is what I'm saying.
Basically, she doesn't like Bruce Banner because he's far too soft in all ways. So we make it we threw in a mild erectile dysfunction joke on poor Bruce. But I happen to think it was probably just because they went like 10 rounds, and Bruce was like, "Come on, man, I need some Gatorade." But yeah, that was.
Well, I mean, can any man really be mad after that?
But yeah, that was that storyline there. That Defender series was mostly done for laughs, though. But yeah, Defender. I think I might get into the Defenders more next week because that's a whole different interesting thing. Because that's always been one of my favorite kind of underused Marvel teams. In fact, there's a storyline where they take over the world. But because if you think about it, that's a power. Oh wait, that's kind of what we're talking about there. It's been a while since I read that, so I couldn't even remember exactly what the hell was going on in it. But how about we just talk? All right, so let's get into some callers. Let's see. Who did they have first? All right. Looks like I got some guy named Matthew Fournet. I think that was one of the shooters up in Quebec.
Mm.
With a guy named David Areen. He quickly fled to Hungary after the shooting.
You can't keep getting away with it.
Nope. I think he's on the payroll for Sam Hyde.
I think he's on the payroll for Putin.
Well, aren't we all?
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, I am swimming in rubles.
Yeah, that's how they got all the nerds on board. We all just mistook that for rupees.
Yeah, I thought it was rupees. I was like, oh, fucking A.
But then there's that whole, Spetsnaz assassinates you clause. So here we are.
In most of those games, rupees are worthless.
Just like rubles.
And speaking of which, do hit up the tip jar down below. I greatly appreciate that.
Send us your rubles, comrade.
Yeah, I do accept rubles. PayPal can easily convert. I mean, I've gotten Canadian dollars before that I just go ahead and convert in PayPal, and somebody actually sent me shekels. I don't know. I don't know if I have an Israeli fan or how that works, but yes, somebody sent me some shekels. And like I said, that is greatly appreciated. All right, Matt, what's on your mind, buddy?
Hey everyone, for long-time listener, first-time caller. First obvious question: why the hell are there been two Lukes this entire time?
Okay, well the thing is, Luke is using his phone for audio because he's got a problem with his mic on his laptop, but he's using his laptop to be able to put pictures on.
Oh, okay, sure. I just that mystery had to be solved.
It's the artistic layman clone saga we got going on.
Yeah, that's okay. So that's solved. And number two, do you guys want to start a GoFundMe so we can find Darkside Phil and beat the shit out of him? Seriously, Jesus Christ! Now I think I finally
put up
understand
another video.
I finally understand, Bechtloff, why you despise this guy so much. I went and watched. I watched the. This is how you don't play Metal Gear series. Metal Gear Solid 3,
yes.
2, and
How do I eat rations?
I don't eat rations.
I don't want to say I
Kojima.
despise him. I'm more fascinated by him.
Well,
like looking at
maybe
train
I'm
wreck.
projecting. Kojima World Order. Kojima World Order. It's not just that he's so bad. Like, I could unpack those videos and just sort of give a psychological portrait of what exactly is wrong with Dark Side Phil. But one of my favorite, I can't remember whether this was in Metal Gear Solid 3 or the Metal Gear Solid 1, but he goes like, yeah, I didn't conform to the stupid rules of the game. I did things my way. Oh yeah, it was a Sniper Wolf battle. He kept trying. He didn't conform to his game desires. And then a comment flashes up like, that's why it took you 30 minutes to kill Sniper Wolf. Jesus Christ.
He's not going to let the man tell him what to do.
Moreover, there's the fact that during the Metal Gear Solid 3 one, he pretends like he doesn't know what how the Sorrow battle plays out, or what leaving the transmitter in Naked Snake's body will do, because a bunch of people in the comments told him. And there are people who are countering that, like, why did you tell him? Why didn't we, you just literally trolled yourself out of A-class entertainment. That's how much little respect people have for, how much contempt they have for Darkside Phil. They actively want him to fail and watch more, and they complain when people give him hints. Like, well, during the MGS one, there's a running joke where he claims that, like, oh, I wasn't looking at the chat while I'm playing. This is a blind playthrough, even though he admits multiple times that, oh, yeah, I know how to do certain things here because someone told me in the chat. Holy shit. And then near the end of it, and then the sheer amount of contempt he has for his fans, the people who are, watching his videos and
Paying
giving him
his
money
bills.
for a living. Yes, paying his bills. At the end of the Metal Gear Solid 3 in the credits section, he's like, well, if you don't like the way I play this game, I'll suck my balls and lick my taint.
Well, that's the thing. That's what gets me. Okay, so you suck at video games. Big deal. Not everybody's that good at video games. I mean, granted, you're being paid to play them, but still, if people find your failings amusing, that's fine. But it's he never takes responsibility for it. It's never just like, oh man, I suck.
There's nothing I could do.
Yeah, it's always the game is bugged, or there's online lag, or that guy cheated somehow, and then he's just a shithead to his face. He's just a shithead. Is the biggest problem with him.
Yeah, and there's also does anyone know what his Asian girlfriend looks like, or if she like really exists? Because whenever a woman, halfway attractive woman, comes up on,
She's not Asian.
What?
He's not
She
Asian.
just calls herself Panda Lee for some reason.
That's
She's not-
just
I realize that sounds like an Asian girl's name.
that's just her gamer tag or whatever, like Darkside Phil.
Okay,
She's not bad looking. I mean, certainly.
Chris, you're a thirsty motherfucker. She's bad looking.
No. For Darkside Phil, she is a 10.
Oh, certainly.
That's what I'm saying.
That's because for her, Darkside Phil is a 2.
I mean, like, I'm saying she's not bad looking. I don't think she's bad looking. I don't think she's hot or anything like that. But if I had a buddy that was dating a woman that looked like that, I'd be like, oh, good for you. I hope you're happy.
Given DSP's
but that is way more than fucking Darkside Phil should be able to bag.
Given
Certainly
DSP's personality, given DSP's personality problems, I'm shocked he's even never gotten laid in his life. The other thing too, he doesn't act like a man who has a girlfriend, because every time a halfway attractive woman comes up on the screen, he starts making these stupid juvenile retarded check jokes. So this is a really bad example. You know the scene in Metal Gear Solid 3 where Naked Snake and Eva meet at the top of the mountain to like discuss breaking into Groznygrad? Throughout the entire thing, he's all like, woo up, yeah baby, suck on my clit, blah blah blah.
Suck on my clit.
Why you?
You mean one of the most heartfelt romantic scenes in the game?
Yes, yeah.
One of the most heartfelt, romantic, engaging scenes in gaming history.
Yes, and he's
where
like,
he catches the moss cookie with his hand. He's like, "Gotcha this time," and it's this sweet callback.
Yeah, it's not even this.
Yeah, sounds about right for Phil.
Yeah, he's also saying stuff like, "Yeah, shove it up my ass, shove shit up my ass." He always says that in like one of his retarded sex monologues. Like, what the fuck?
Well, supposedly she's not exactly giving it up very much for him anymore. So
There's video evidence that he needs to do other things.
yeah, I mean, he's got to be cranking one out on. He's got to crank one out for gout awareness because she's not in the mood.
And my favorite part of that is that he during the scene where Eva gives Naked Snake the key to actually proceed in the game. He's like, oh well, why are you putting your clothes on? I want you to take them off. Then like in the next scene when he starts playing again, he's like, how do I get to the next area? And he falls off the cliff multiple times. I don't think that's possible to do consciously. But he does it like 3 or 4 times before he finally figures out is that he has to quit the game and figured out, oh, yeah, I have to go back to the previous area and then go to this locked door.
Maybe.
Like, well, the game didn't tell me this. The game didn't tell me this. Yeah, the game did tell you. It's just that you were too busy, jacking one off to Eva's digital tits.
Well, yeah, he never pays any attention to...
He talks over cutscenes and then is all mad when he doesn't know what to do, even though they told him in the cutscene.
Yeah, that game he was playing where he's got to do a crouch jump to get up higher on things. It is amazing how far he manages to get without learning this basic ability in the game. Like it's almost like he's doing a challenge run, like those guys that play Legend of Zelda without getting a sword.
Well, the hilarious thing too is that you played the entirety of each Metal Gear Solid game without realizing that they're supposed to be stealth games. Like he's wandering around trying to kill everyone he comes across, like just murdering them and setting the alarm off. He's like, man, this sucks. This game sucks. I can't aim for shit.
Maybe if he paid attention, he said, "Snake, this is a sneaking mission."
Fuck that.
That was your hint, Phil. That was your hint, Phil.
I'll sneak my boot in their ass. Oh man, but yeah, that's Dark Side Phil for you.
He can't even figure out how to aim in first person. Holy shit! He's complaining about like, why does it take so long? The gaming this thing stuck. Yeah, with the tranquilizer gun. Yeah, the tranquilizer gun is designed to be you go into first person and you shoot someone in the head. Now you don't fill them up with tranquilizer darts.
The tranquilizer darts don't take someone down instantly. Wow, dude.
They really don't work. They really don't work on those dudes with shotguns and Kevlar armor. That's a shock.
As Mr. Matoker once said, making fun of him, he's like, "Why is it when I shoot somebody in the knees and they shoot me in the head, they win the firefight? Online lag."
The game's glitched out. The controls suck. I'm leaving the Kojima World Order. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say about that because I had to vent after watching this nonsense after peering into the void that is the void for that is Dark Side Phil. Anyway, it's late here. I just had to get it off my chest. Thanks for taking my call, and y'all have a you have a good night.
Good night.
Look, before we take the next caller, I almost forgot to talk about something that's actually in the name of this live stream. You'll see the link there. Bring up this picture. This is some tweets the gentleman known as Brianna Wu had. You know where it's going too, so we all know it. So Wired had a tweet where they talked about an article of SpaceX says its plans to launch a privately crewed mission to the moon next year. Story forthcoming. By the way, private endeavors are making some really nice leaps in space travel here this past year. It's been amazing. I think I saw footage of a rocket that had actually come back down and landed.
Yep, that's something that SpaceX has been working on.
Yeah, NASA swore up and down you can't do it. That's like Star Trek shit. We can't do it. Well, it turns out private sector could do it.
Mm-hmm.
As they said in Ghostbusters, as Peter Venkman said in Ghostbusters, you don't know what it's like in a Ray said that in Ghostbusters. You don't know what it's like in the private sector. They demand results. But anyways, Brianna Wu was very concerned about this, with one tweet saying, "This is being covered as a fun hijink for rich people, but the idea of a private corporation having access to moon, not the moon, but to moon, should give you pause." And I'm busting his balls here, but I know on Twitter you got to make some grammatical errors to make it fit. So
does he still have his balls?
I'm busting I'm busting whatever the fuck mangled mess is going on down there.
You're stomping in the groin area.
Yeah, whatever's going on in that disaster region. And then the second tweet, the moon is probably the most technical, viable military ground for Earth. I almost thought he was going to say on Earth, but okay. For Earth. Rocks dropped from there have the power of hundreds of nuclear bombs. Rocks dropped from the moon. Now, I do realize that the Earth has more gravity than the moon. But you still can't drop something from the moon because it has its own gravity. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
By that logic, I could drop something into the sun from the Earth. All right?
Yep.
It doesn't work that way, dude. And here's the thing. Like, there are actually, you see this pop up in sci-fi at all. It's an interesting idea of a sort of Damocles weapon where you basically have like a satellite that has like big tungsten rod and just drops this down on a city. And yeah, that's like a nuke going off, except minus the radiation. It's a pretty cool idea for a weapon. The biggest problem with such a thing is the sheer insane amount of energy and fuel it takes to get something even fucking up there.
Mm-hmm. Which is why asteroid mining would be very useful for military purposes. But
that aside, though, there are some, like, he's getting to some interesting ideas. It's like he saw that in a movie somewhere and completely misunderstood it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But there are concerns with private space exploration. There's concerns, with militarization of space. There are issues to be discussed, certainly. All that aside, though, this dumb cocksucker thinks I can stand on the moon and just, like, I guess, let some shit go, and it just falls to Earth.
If you've seen any of the gameplay of Revolution 60, you would know that this person has no grasp whatsoever on how physics work. Like, even basic shit like water falls out of glass when it tips over. Okay.
Somebody took a GIF of the old NES DuckTales game on the moon level where he, like, Scrooge McDuck hits the rock with his cane and it goes flying up, and they said we just got footage from the top secret operation on the
moon. Unfreaking real.
And this person is supposed to be like a software engineer and all this shit. This is supposed to be a woman in STEM fields. Think about that. This is neither a woman nor is this person.
Yeah, aren't you glad you're being represented, females?
This is neither a woman nor legitimately in STEM fields.
God.
Yeah, I almost forgot to talk about this because wow. This is how batshit crazy liberals are. They think fucking. I'm surprised you didn't say the Russians were going to be dropping rocks from the moon.
Like the thing is, like this is so baffling and so angering. Like, I looked at this, and for a split second, I transformed mind, body, and soul into Gordon Ramsay. And I was like, "Oh, you donkey! What are you doing? What's wrong with you?
You can't drop a rock from the moon.
You can't drop rocks from the moon any more than you can drop salt into chicken noodle soup. It's already got enough salt. It's raw." When did you lose your passion, eh? When did you lose your passion for cooking? When did you lose your passion for space rocks?
But yeah, I would have been remiss if I hadn't discussed that. That's up there with like what. That's like a Jaden fucking Smith tweet right there. Right?
It is. How can the moon be real if our rocks aren't real? Oh my God! Wait a minute! Oh my God! Isn't Jaden Smith a tranny now too? Oh my God, it's all coming together.
How can mirrors be real?
Hang on, I gotta go get a cork board and some yarn. I'll be right back.
How can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? It's like you read that and you're like, what? I don't know. I don't accept your premise, but in a world in which our eyes aren't real, I don't know how mirrors would work. All right, let's bring in our next caller. Looks like Cynic in Chief wants to call in.
The man, the myth, the legend.
And my dying dog making a bunch of noise back there.
We can't hear it.
My Scott Malkison dog.
Hello, my name is Loki, and I'd like to talk to you about diabetes.
You don't make fun of dogs with diabetes. My name's Scott Malkison. Movie Bob now has something in common with my dog.
Anyone who didn't die playing a
and my dog's also a virgin, so I guess he's got that in common with him too.
Oh man, I didn't know you played as a barbarian, you savage.
Although, unlike Movie Bob, I'm pretty sure my dog has a soul. Three. I promise I won't get all political. 3 drinks later. Oh, and those fucking people were everywhere Friday, too. I was not in the mood.
What, Movie Bobs?
No, fucking Amish. The picture on him. Yeah, Movie Bobs. Movie Bob actually got so big, he split into 2. That's how
Mitosis occurred.
I guess because of, I don't know, Lent or whatever. I don't know what the fuck kind of, I don't know what the fuck the Amish got going on, but for whatever reason, they were fucking all over the place Friday. Way more than normal, and I was in no fucking mood. I screeched around a few of them, all angry, middle finger up in the air. Yeah, I was really.
That kind of screech?
Yeah, every time I see them, I think to myself, why is that? Every time I see a horse and buggy, I think, why is that filthy, smelly, disgusting animal on the road? And why is it tormenting that poor horse?
Freaking Amish! Get the hell off my roads!
Yeah, that's proper Amish. Drive cars instead of horse and buggies.
See, with the Amish, you don't just throw them in ovens. You got to throw them in giant microwaves to really put salt in the wound. We're going to go high tech, you cocksuckers.
Hey, some of us program computers and want to throw leftists out of helicopters. So,
I mean, if you just keep your nonsense off the public road.
And by nonsense, he means bodies.
Physically remove the Amish.
Physical removal.
I mean, hell, when I had that PA congressman on here, I didn't shy away from the AQ. What's on your mind, Cynic?
first of all, I'd like to thank you for introducing me to Christopher Cantwell, who is the alt-right's Mark Levin. Except instead of punching leftists upside the head, he beats them senseless and then throws the bodies out of a helicopter.
Yeah, I love Cantwell stuff.
He's been on fire the past few weeks.
I'd love to get him on the show.
Has anybody put him out? How's he still going?
He's the Human Torch, motherfucker.
He's like in Borderlands, where you get more powers if you actually get set on fire.
It's a character feat you can take into my new RPG. Is on fire.
So, Christopher Cantwell, Matt mentioned this during his live stream past week, but Rachel Dolezal, the transracial bitch.
Ah, yes.
Apparently, she is homeless, or well, will be homeless within a month. Broke, living off of my money, food stamps, and nobody wants to hire her for some strange reason.
Well, that is some sort of discrimination right there. I do not approve of that.
I also heard that she had her name legally changed to something.
The poor transracialist.
I mean, anybody who doesn't hire her is, of course, discriminating against both blacks and whites at the same time.
Yeah.
You can't discriminate against whites. Whites have the power and the privilege.
So you're saying you're all about white power, Undertow?
Yeah, I'm making an okay hand here, which is the white power symbol.
Yeah, that's an okay. That's white power now. Fucking A.
Give a nice Bellamy salute.
It's funny that they think that's the white power symbol when black people use it all over social media.
Well, they clearly have internalized racism.
Internalized white supremacy.
Cantwell suggested she do a video of her dildoing herself and label it transracial or transit.
It could be interracial porn.
Yeah, exactly.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. She can do the world's first solo interracial porn.
So
you tell me one of like the interracial porn like websites or something wouldn't be all over that. like they would just give her a truckload of money for that.
Just do it, please. It'll be hilarious.
So that brought up a question that I didn't know if you guys discussed it in the past, but how far do you let yourself go when you're laughing with glee about these idiots? I mean, we're talking about the guy watching earlier about the guy who got fired from his job for posting something idiotic, but he was an SJW. And
once you're laughing to that like point where you're like your stomach hurts and you're having trouble breathing, you should probably like stop for a minute before you hurt yourself. Beyond that, I will never cease to stop taking pleasure in their destruction. Because make no mistake, these people, if they could, would see you dead and would see you penniless and alone in the gutter. They would see your children raped by Muslims and laugh about it. All right? Make no mistake, these are monsters. Monsters, all right? The hardcore leftists, and I'm not talking about everyone who ever votes Democrat, because some people are like, oh, I just like to help the little guy or some shit like that. I'm not talking about the useful idiots. I'm talking about the hardcore fucking leftists.
The true believers.
Yeah. They are monsters. They are absolute monsters.
And so you have, I guess that means there's really no solution for dealing with them, I guess, except for physical removal.
If not that, at least a boot on the neck. And the fucked up thing is they want the boot on the neck. That's the interesting thing about them. They are in many ways a child daring discipline. They want nothing more than to be slapped down and told no. In 9 times out of 10. Because A, they feel so much morally superior when they actually are oppressed. And B, most of them know that, they want to be told no. That's the fucked up thing about it. I realize as actual functional adults, it's hard for us to understand. But they just desperately want that. And all this nonsense of feeling bad for them, it comes back to that, talking about Carnage, where like even he's laughing at Spider-Man over his like, he had a bad childhood bullshit. Like, quit being a fag. I'm just a shitbag.
I mean, I've met lots of leftist normies, and honestly, they're reasonable. They're going to be the new moderates.
Yeah.
Again,
and those aren't the people you're laughing at, though. That's
no.
I'm not talking. I'm not talking about the guys who just. Well, I think both sides are wrong, and I think I want to help the little guy and have some nice welfare. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm not talking about your old school Democrats. I'm not even talking about your liberals of yesterday. You know what I mean? I am talking about these cultural Marxists, SJW shitbags. All right.
The ones
no remorse.
The ones who won't live with us. Everybody else, exactly. they'll live with us.
Sure.
They may disagree, etc., but they'll live with us. But the ones who want to punch or even kill, like that's where the Antifa are heading.
Yep.
Which is hilarious too. Go ahead and let's normalize violence against your political opponents.
Yeah, I can't see where that would go wrong.
These idiots don't understand is like you hardcore leftists, you exist because right wingers suffer you to live. That's what it boils down to. Because A, you're usually parasites. You're usually fucking worthless, half the time you don't even fucking work. You're actually literally sponging off society. If you do have a job, it's some sort of useless HR bullshit where it was basically designed to give you a job, where it doesn't actually do anything for anybody. And again, we have the fucking guns. All right? Your side is nothing but a bunch of faggots that never held a gun in their life and stupid dindoos that hold it sideways. These leftists that are like, oh, I can't wait for a civil war. I'm like, that'll take like an afternoon, all right? I won't even have to take a full day off of work.
Yeah, everyone will look at Half-Life 2's 7 hours war and say, man, they really overballed it there they really highballed it there with just trying to make a short war.
I'll just look at my boss like, hey, I got to go take a long lunch. I got to go fight in a civil war. Don't worry, I'll make up the time tomorrow.
And talking about Civil War, have you been monitoring what's happening with the phone tapping of Donald Trump last year?
Yeah, apparently
that's just been breaking.
Yeah, Trump has outright declared that Obama phone tapped him. That Obama
Wow.
And oh, by the way, that reminds me, Nick
Obama.
Gillespie actually, like, because somebody then tweeted under it, like, lock him up. And then Nick Gillespie, that faggot from Reason TV, who, God forgive me, I used to respect, he was all like, it's so harmful to democracy that a president would be, considering, first of all, it was somebody supporting Trump saying it, so it wasn't even Trump. But it's so harmful to democracy, the republic, the idea of a president locking up his predecessor. And I'm like, okay, let me get this straight. Nick Gillespie, self-proclaimed libertarian, is arguing that former presidents are above the law. Leftist libertarians.
I don't think it would be as much of an issue.
Leftist libertarians are as worthless as male nipples.
That's a whole nother side issue. And that's what I'm seeing is a schism in the Libertarian Party. I'm not registered libertarian to be, and I've still got a lot of friends there. And you're seeing the right turn into alt-right and the left going SJW bonkers and the libertarians. And it's going to completely destroy the party.
It's a shame because, like, the libertarianism is a voice that needs to be heard. Okay, because that's how a functional society falls into that, anyways. The problem with libertarianism is it doesn't know how to get there. It has no idea how to reverse engineer where we are to get where they want to be. But I like the idea where they want to be. Okay, but again, the meme where it's like a tiny little brain and then a big brain and then like this psychic guy and it's like, the different tiers of thought or whatever. There's one where it's like Democrat and then Republican and then smarter than that is libertarian and then smarter than that is fascism and then smarter than that is whatever is just feasibly necessary to create a reasonably free and prosperous society.
My favorite one is liberal, right-winger, fascist, libertarian, a person who chooses fascism when there's no other choice.
Yeah, or a person who uses libertarianism, fascism, a person who uses fascism to create a libertarian social order.
So libertarians are going, and then you've got they're total cucking out. But according to the lawyers I've been reading, if this is true, if Obama actually did use the normal warrants and get the Trump, and then lie to the FISA court saying that or withholding the name, then he's violated at least 5 laws. And unlike Clinton, who kind of just went off into the sunset, and Trump's leaving her alone. Obama's not going away. He's trying to stick around and undermining Trump. So I can see the knives coming out on him.
Good. I hope.
And good.
I hope.
Oh,
I hope
what
Obama,
sweet justice that would be.
Yeah, I hope Obama spends the rest of his worthless days in a federal prison.
Your false messiah will die today.
I hope his skull decorates our
to the
wall.
people.
Yeah.
Anyway, one last plug. Check out Ivan Thrones. He did some periscopes from Denver today. I was watching those, and then he's apparently launching some kind of anti-Antifa project called Violent.Solutions. Anyway, there's not much. I looked at it, and there's not much up there right now, but supposedly he's got some cool stuff cooking, so you can sign up and get email updates on that. I know there's a lot of people, and some of my friends are just itching to go crack some heads, so I don't think that's what this is about, but...
Interesting. All right. Anything else on your mind?
All right, it's good to talk to you guys.
All right. Thanks for calling in, man. Always good to
That's
hear
it.
from you.
Have a good one.
All right.
All right.
Move on to our next caller then.
Matter of fact, I might actually hop out early here because I've had a very, very long day, and I kind of just want to go to bed.
I feel you there. So if you want to check out, go ahead.
Yeah, you guys have an excellent night. I'll be back for longer next week, hopefully.
All
Take
right.
care, everybody. Good night.
Take care.
All right. Waiting on Black James, I believe, is going to be our third caller. So look forward to that. And let's see. Dead air. Man.
Oh, did you want to rant any more? Well, I know it's not really off topic and we're kind of away from topics, but did you want to mention about that 3 teens kidnapped the Salvadorian gang?
Oh yeah. Let's do that real quick. Yeah, just bring up the article if you can. You know, let's see. Sorry, I'm bringing it up here. Yeah, the more talking about how fucking great and important immigrants are to us, doing the satanic murders Americans won't do.
Hello.
Hey James, real quick, I want to cover this story.
There's-
Let's see. Okay, so police: 3 teen girls kidnapped by a Salvadorian gang in Houston. I saw something where it said it was like a satanic. Okay, here we go. The girl said the 15-year-old was killed in a satanic ritual because she had struck the gang's shrine to a satanic saint, according to investigators. So yeah, immigrants rock, don't they?
Oh God, not that. One of these days, I'm going to tell y'all about some of my read ones about how Satan worship and witchcraft in Mexico is so intense that the whole damn place is like. Someone said that it's like someone watched the Blair Witch and went, oh yeah, that. Like we want that. But no, I'm glad y'all let me on. I love this show, by the way.
Oh, thanks for being on.
I really do love your show because you guys are like. This is kind of what I was saying last week.
James, your volume is coming in and out there.
It is?
Yeah, like it keeps going up and down on us.
Oh, hold on. Let me try some. Is that better?
You should. It sounds like it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Anyway, I really love you guys' show. It's like you guys are just like normal people. Like this is kind of what I was saying yesterday. It's just how normal people react to things and talk about things. And Undertow was talking about Warhammer 40K and stuff. By the way, I'm a huge fan of Warhammer 40K. And
yeah, the segment seems to be really popular. And honestly, I'm enjoying learning about the lore. So
I can tell you about some stuff about the lore. I'm a huge fan. But what I wanted to do, excuse me, what I wanted to do mainly was just, I wanted to come on here and just wax poetic about the 90s and nostalgia, because when you start talking about how all you listen to is 90s on 9 and Pop 2K, that struck a chord in the fiery black pit that is my nigger heart, because like that's essentially all I do. Like anyone that's ever been in a car with me for more than 5 seconds knows that like essentially, like except like my mom sometimes is in there and she changes to like the 60s on 6 or something. But like the only thing I ever listen to really is the 90s on 9. That's my channel and Pop 2K. And the reason for that is that I said this 100 damn times, but as far as I'm concerned, human civilization just kind of petered out in terms of functionality around 2002, 2003. And really, we should have just stopped trying around the 90s and just look around the year 2000 and ever go like, you know what, we had a good run, and just set off all the nukes at once and just let the civilization collapse.
Well, I think there definitely was a spinning its wheels. I noticed this a few years ago, and I think things are moving out of it a bit. But like around 2014, I really began to notice this. I would hear songs from 2004. And that sound like they could have come out yesterday. You know what I mean? I'd hear songs 10 years old that don't sound any different from songs back then. And
okay,
what really struck me is like about how music, and I even had a podcast back when I was just doing podcasts with a musician named Matt Baldoni, where I talked to him about how music is kind of spinning its wheels. And
it's not just music. That's my point.
Pop culture in general, but music is a really good canary in a coal mine for it.
Well, literal canary in a coal mine. But it's like music is literally just the like you were talking about comics earlier, and by the way, and that was like wonderful for me because you was taking me back. I own like literally all the comics you described. Like literally every single one that you mentioned with Carnage in it, I have a copy of. Like literally every single one.
The thing that struck me is like, okay, so let's say let's go back all the way to the 50s, right? People are listening to rock and roll, which is a music genre that didn't exist 20 years prior. You skip forward to the 70s. People are listening to, say, disco, which is a music genre that didn't exist 20 years prior. Skip forward to the 90s. People are listening to rap music, which is a music genre that didn't exist 20 years
prior. And boy bands. I'm strangely one of those straight people that likes boy bands.
I actually kind of like them myself too, to be honest. But but boy bands you can just argue is pop, which existed for a while.
It's
but I mean, a whole
genre
of music that didn't exist 20 years later. And then you skip 20 years from the 90s into, the 2010s. There is no music genre that did not exist back then.
See, sadly, that's where you're wrong. There actually is, but it's so fucking ridiculous and impossible to fucking nail down that I'm not surprised that somebody would dismiss it out of hand and not notice it. Like your brain just doesn't want to absorb it. Have you heard this song? I literally don't even know the title of it, but it's the song where this girl with a high-pitched voice is just saying things that rhyme, and the music is skipping around so that it's as if it's like rewind eating the tape. Like it just sounds like and she's just like jittering on like nothingness. And then now there's this young rapper called Lil Yachty, and his thing is that he just sings in a very high-pitched voice and this kind of skipping around tone. That's become like a thing.
Yeah,
like sing it in a high-pitched tone that kind of, and the music kind of skips around and it sounds like a video skipping.
Yeah, I can't say I've really heard. I don't know what song that is you're talking about. So,
if you ever watched the Riverdale episode where Betty and Veronica tried to convince the black boy to sell out the rest of the football team to admit that they had supposedly raped some girls or some bullshit like that. There's a scene in there where they played that song with the woman singing.
I've only watched 2 episodes of Riverdale so far, but goddamn,
it's really
good. Fucking dark.
It's really good. Oh, it's gotten dark. Oh, you ain't seen shit yet. Then it's gotten darker. That shit.
I like it. Don't get me wrong. I think I said on this live stream I was very interested, and again, it sort of reminded me of teen movies from like the late '90s, early 2000s.
It reminds me of like Wild Things.
Yes, it reminds
the plot, whether the plot's going down,
tension, something like that. It
yes,
sort of feels.
Poison Ivy. Remember Poison Ivy with me? But the thing is, like what I'm saying is that it's not just music though. It's like I look back on comic books, like you reminded me of that, and I went to see Logan today, and they done. I'm not gonna spoil it for anyone, but they done spliced together about 30 different comic book stories, not just old men.
And the X-Men movies have to do that because I mean, like they couldn't
because there's so much backstory that leads into these stories.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, you could not. This movie is inspired by the comic book story Old Man Logan, but you can't
only half of it. Only half of it. Part of it is inspired by Old Man Logan, but I'm not. I hope I'm not spoiling.
Adapt that storyline because it deeply involves all these non-X-Men characters that they just don't have the rights to.
Okay, I hope I'm not spoiling it for anyone, but Old Man Logan is just the framework upon which they build it. The actual story that they are dealing with, the characters, the outcome, the appearance of Hope. Well, they don't call her Hope, but the girl Hope. The story that they are really dealing with is decimation. In no uncertain terms. In fact, I believe one of the characters actually uses the term decimation in the story. It literally is.
Well, I meant to see it Friday, but other things happened.
But that's another example of what I was talking about. Oh, yes, I forgot to mention actually. I feel really horrible about what happened to your dog, man. I really do. You were talking about that, and I had a cat that was with us for like I want to say like 17 years, and about 16 years, and he died of sadly he died of cancer. His name was Buddha, like the religious figure, and he was like a family member to me, and I honestly I grew up with him for a good chunk of my life, honestly, and he was like a brother to me. And when he died, I was completely distraught. So I understand completely. I hope that your dog does better, man. I really do.
Oh, he's fine. I had to give him his first shot today.
Yeah, but you know,
that was harder on me than him. You know, he didn't even notice it.
Oh,
feeling bad. That
fingers crossed, man. You know,
I'm feeling bad about it, and he just doesn't even. He's more just annoyed that I'm holding him, and grabbing a big old scruff of his neck and stuff. He's just sitting there, kind of, wanting to wander off and do dog stuff. But
yes,
I appreciate
I wanted
that.
to mention that. No, really. I wanted to mention that. I just had to say that. But what I was really going to say was that, like, the reason why you feel that kind of nostalgia is because, like, you're probably about the same age I am. So I'm about 31. So you're probably about the same age. Like, and
well, the problem I mentioned is, I mean, look,
is that you grew up in the 90s and I grew up in the 90s, and that whole era. There's so much stuff, like you were saying about Carnage as a character that just gets shit on stuff. It's not just that. There's a whole bunch of characters. There's a whole bunch of comics. There's a whole bunch of creators in comics. Like, I take Rob Liefeld, defend Rob Liefeld to the death every day. But it's like, it's not just that. It's in music. It's in movies. It's in video games. There's so many things that came out of that whole era that have been hugely influential on things since then. And it's like nothing has been able to equal it. There's really literally, because now you have Occupy Avengers. Now you have.
Oh, well, it's rough now and again. But in music, it was a couple months ago. I noticed this. I had stumbled onto this this music video for this old girl group from like 2099, something like that, called Dream. And the song He Loves You Not.
Loves You Not. I love that song.
And I remember I'm watching this video and I'm like, I remember this being on TV and shit. This was a kind of a catchy song. And I'm watching it and I'm like, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but there was a level of, I mean, it's overproduced pop, and there's always been overproduced pop since for 50.
Is it overproduced like that? That's kind of thing.
I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's a certain level of heart to this that you look at, like, there's a girl group now called fucking Fifth Harmony that is just the most fucking thought thing you've ever fucking seen. That over there. And I'm like, there's definitely, like, this shitty fucking girl group that nobody remembers, basically. And I'm like, there's more to this than a million fucking Beyonce or Rihanna songs.
It's not just that though, but I also think it's like these things have been hugely influential. And a lot of the stuff that Beyonce is doing, a lot of the stuff that Rihanna is doing, a lot of stuff Fifth Harmony is doing, they are basically doing that. They are replicating that stuff.
But
because nothing new has come
honestly,
out.
I like pop music. I like R&B. I like the kind of music, quote unquote, that Beyonce makes. And I despise Beyonce's music. I despise it. I can tolerate some of Destiny's Child.
I frankly prefer when she was with Destiny's Child.
Back in the day, maybe one or two of her earliest songs when she went solo. I'm not going to change the radio station if it comes on. But her stuff right now is
I thought Irreplaceable was good.
I think the first time where I was like, okay, I officially hate this fucking woman was that All the Single Ladies song. I'm like, all right, this woman needs to die in a fire.
That's fun to listen to, but it's the problem with her is that almost all of her songs are kind of the same. Is that like they all about like, oh, I'm better than you, so I'm leaving you, and I'm like, well, if you're so much better, then why did we get together in the first place? Like apparently, why would you fuck a dog?
She is actually inside out. I'm convinced because she's gone up her own ass so far that she's just like. She just turned complete like a fucking sock, just completely turned inside out.
Oh, but it's like, but then you get into situations like, because I remember I was talking about this with somebody. I was talking about this with somebody. And we were trying to figure out whether there was one particular song that was done by Charlie Puth or Sam Smith. And the problem is that they're not that distinctive. They're not distinctive enough for each other for you to tell unless you look it up. Like
that's funny. I often get Chris Matthews or Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow confused. So, you know. But no, seriously, my point on that was like, and I'd seen the boomer generation really get caught up into this, and I don't want to see our generation do it. Look, I realize there's problems with the entertainment being put out there right now, but a problem that can arise, and I'm not saying you have to turn off your fucking 90s station. I'm just saying a problem that can arise is, I mean, see the 90s on 9 on the Sirius, one of the things that's really cool about it is that it'll play songs you haven't heard in years. It's not like that same 90s hit that's been played forever. You know what I mean? It's not like they're going to fucking play constantly Hootie and the Blowfish shit. For whatever reason, radio stations have never stopped playing. Okay?
Like you and the Blowfish.
They're going to play stuff that you probably haven't heard in many, many years. Maybe since fucking the song was popular. You know, they don't just play the really popular songs. You know what I mean? They play the stuff that maybe made it into the top 30. You know what I mean? But
yes, and
what's cool about that is but you hear this song that you haven't heard in fucking 15 years, and you get sucked back to what you were doing 15 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's happened. That happens to me every goddamn.
And that's not the best place mentally to be in all the time.
Okay, because we actually when we was driving to see Logan, it was I had to kind of not really talk my mother, but kind of get her worked up to go see this movie with me because she didn't really want to go see it at first, but she actually changed it too when she went to see it because she really enjoyed it. But while we was driving there, I remember she kind of wanted me to listen to some other stuff like the hair metal station or like the 60s on 6 stuff because she says that I get like too zoned out and just kind of flashing back and stuff, and I just kind of get like ghostly and zoned out on this shit, and I do. And I spend like huge amounts of my time, like I just go back to when I was a kid, just listening to like barely breathing and stuff like that. I would just be sitting up in my room reading Liefeld comics and stuff like that. And that was me, like that, you know. And of course, we have to do this every time anybody we driving where we have to do this because I live in Detroit, and as I've pointed this out before, nothing is fucking in Detroit. So every time we have to go anywhere that's important, like to get like food from Walmart or go see a movie, or I'm going to see a movie with somebody or something like that, it's like I have to drive whole the fucking way out of the city. It's like an hour drive there and an hour drive back. It's like, you know, that song "Off to See the World" starts playing in the fucking background because it's like a fucking invention montage from a children's movie. You know, and it you know, so because of course all the white people built all the movie studios and stuff outside of the city, you know, because like most mad scientists, they're terrified of their creation, so they just leave us all to die in the city after flooding it with welfare checks. So they make sure they have a good voting block, you know, to control Michigan forever. But you know, and we just, you know, and that's all I'd be doing. I should be sitting there listening, and and like every 5 seconds, go, oh, I love this song. Oh, I know this song. Oh, I love this song. Oh, I remember this song. And it must be because all I used to do when I was a kid was sit and listen to TRL. Nobody remembers TRL. Was probably younger than me.
Oh, I remember TRL. I didn't actually like TRL though.
I used to watch that show religiously. That show was like, it was like going to church to me. It was like every goddamn day, you know. Now that was back when I didn't believe in church too. So that was so.
Yeah, I remember when that Brandy and Monica song was like #1 on TRL.
The Boy Is
so long.
Mine.
They had to fucking retire it.
Yes, yes.
It was like the whole summer. What was it? The summer like '98 or something like that.
Summer '69.
Maybe '96.
But I remember when the what were they called? The New Radicals came out with that song, "You Get What You Give," and at the end of the song, they basically called Hanson, Courtney Love, Marilyn Manson, and Beck losers. They said like you're all fags live in your mansions. Why don't you come and fight us sometimes? It's basically the end lyrics of the song was literally that. And I remember some of them. I think it really was like Marilyn Manson, Beck, and Courtney Love. I remember actually said to them like, "Oh, really? You want to fight us?" And they had to quickly come on TV and apologize. Like, no, we were just kidding. Y'all misinterpreting the song. No, we're not misinterpreting the song, you little bitch. You was trying to insult somebody, and then they decided to fight back. Fuck you. There we go. That's it. Oh God, I remember when people used to dress like that. God damn it, y'all taking me back, man. It's like shit. I feel so old. Actually, you know what? No, because this is a fucking problem I had like literally yesterday because I was playing Overwatch and I got hooked up with some kids that were all about 10 or 12 years old. Every time I would mention something, they would go like, "Oh, what was that?" And I would have to explain to them. They go, "Oh, I wasn't born when that happened," you know. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! I feel like, you know, I feel like I'm fucking like a Highlander over here or something, you know. Like, you know, I'm not Scottish. I'm Egyptian. You know, fucking Jesus. Is this what being a 30-year-old really feels like? If this is what being a Generation Xer feels like? It's being part of a dying wasteland of kids that were left behind by the crazy people that became obsessed with the internet. Came after us.
Well, for the first time, I feel like maybe there's a little light. For a while there, I felt like holy shit, we are at the end. But no, I feel like there's a renewing, and there's some motherfuckers that'll have to be dealt with. But I feel like there's a renewing on the horizon.
It's just it seems to me like I can see that there is like I genuinely do believe that I'm an optimistic person. I genuinely do believe that there's hope for the future, hope for a lot of things. That's not my, like, for example, I just found out that Obama is actually looking into seeing a lawyer because he was accused of wiretapping. He might actually be tried for treason. So,
nice.
Yes, someone said that online and was talking about it. So,
like, look, if we had the rule of law in this country, Obama would be fucking in front of a firing squad right now. George Bush would be sitting in a federal prison, and Bill Clinton would just now be getting out of a federal prison. All right.
I like Bill Clinton though. I like him.
I'm going to go off on a rant here.
Leave him alone.
The thing I like to call this the Gerald Ford curse, because look, Nixon was hardly the monster everyone makes him out to be, but he did do something wrong, and primarily that something was covering up something wrong. But the point is, he should have been held to account. And when Gerald Ford pardoned him for, I believe, very good reason, good-hearted reasons, he wanted us all to move on from this shameful, he wanted us all to be able to move on as a country. That's a good motive, but the problem is a price needed to be paid. And by just pardoning him, Nixon famously said to that reporter, when the president does it, it's not illegal. Well, by pardoning him, you basically cemented that into law.
Back up. Does this nigga actually say that?
Yes, Nixon told a reporter that was interviewing him, when the president does it, it's not illegal.
Yes, they made a whole movie about that interview.
Yeah, by pardoning him, you basically unofficially made that the law. Well, that's why you had every president since getting away with more and more. Every president. I was born in 1983. Reagan was president, and
I was born in
Reagan had his faults. He was by far the best president of my lifetime, and every president got worse than the last after that.
That reminded me of something, and it also reminded me when you was talking about how the OK symbol has become a symbol of white power. That, which, by the way, those people that believe that, they vote. Think about that for a moment. They're allowed to vote.
We need
I also
to go
want
back to only landowners vote.
I also want to say that I like the idea for a show that you have. What's it called? Autistic screaming or something. Where you just take somebody and show them the craziest shit on the internet. I want to feel like you got inspired by it last week when I was explaining to you about some first person accounts that I came into contact with, and Undertow almost hung himself in shock, you know. But
honestly, the thought process came too. I was explaining to a colleague at work, because I was listening to this stream at my desk of somebody shitting on Darkside Phil, and I had to explain to them what Darkside Phil was, and I was having a hard enough time getting past he's a professional video game player. but then when I try to explain,
but okay, but here's the thing though. I want to show. Can I like send y'all a link to something so y'all can see this article? Because if I just said this out loud, y'all would just be like, oh, that's a goddamn lie. You're cut off and just fucking cast me out forever.
Go ahead.
I didn't make this shit up. I want you all to see this. Things like this is that it has now become this has now become commonplace where people are so afraid of being called racist that they are saying that you are now not allowed to compete against Latinos because the chances of you winning could in fact be white power.
And that is, if you think about it, that is the most white supremacist thing somebody could possibly say. Basically, Latinos can't compete with you, so you have to stop competing with them to be fair to these poor subhuman monsters.
these poor beasts. But it's like this is something that I've been saying for a while now, and I'm dead serious about this too. When you have a minority that is untouchable, they are no longer a minority. They are an aristocracy. And that is what we are evolving into here. We are evolving into a situation where these people are, you people. These motherfuckers are becoming a fucking aristocracy.
What is it Common Filth says about fags, the natural aristocracy? Because no one's allowed to criticize them.
I would prefer that almost. Because at least I would prefer that almost because at least they can't just have they don't have like 8 kids at a time. You know, like I'm sorry, that's fucking racist. No, fuck it isn't. Like it's like these Latino women. It's like they just burst open at a certain point, like a fucking chest burster, and just give birth to like 12 offspring.
Well, at least the commenters get the message. I really hope he wins. I don't care what his policies are or his party or anything. I just hope he wins because it made it about race, and I want that guy to cry and freak out.
I agree. Like I swear to God, I would vote for the nigga. But it's gotten to the point where by the way, something else just to further piss off Hispanic people, because this is true also. And you need only look at some of the Hispanic actresses and stuff and see their personalities and whatnot and follow this through. But the only thing that the entire fucking Hispanic group has been useful for is apparently like cheap labor and producing hot girls. And the Asians do the exact same, but both of those fucking things. They do it quicker, they do it better, and they're all here legally. So I don't see why I have to fucking deal. I don't see why I have to fucking deal with these motherfuckers when I can pick up Ellen Wong or Brenda Song or something like that, have the exact same thing and cheap labor.
You know what? On that note, I think we're gonna wrap this up tonight because I don't think we can top that brilliant, that perfect analogy there. And you are our final caller, so I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up on that note. So thank you for calling in. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
Okay.
Undertow, thanks for being on. Luke, thanks for being on tonight. Everybody,
everybody.
Do check out the sponsors below. Race Ride Apparel, get you some Shitlord shirts. Ojo Negro, independent comic book, worth checking out. Checking out the sponsors helps me because that means they want to continue to be sponsors of this fine program. And also, you can go ahead and check out the tip jar where you can send me some motherfucking shekels. That's greatly appreciated. And you know, that helps me keep doing what I'm doing. And as I said earlier, you know, I'm hardly broke. Don't misunderstand me, but I did take a punch to the wallet here Friday. So this week in particular, donations are appreciated. And also, if you don't have any interest in the sponsors and don't have any extra money you could be tossing my way, the very least you could do if you enjoy this program is like, comment, subscribe, because that helps this channel grow. All right, folks, that's all we got for this week. Thank you for listening. Bechtloff out.